Chapter 530. Ancient North City. Ancient Shu's #1 immortal city in the north. The Red Dust Plains. 3 major Red Dust clans resided in Ancient North City. Ancient North City was extremely large, covering an area of 1,000 miles. Compared to the Chaos God Su City, it paled in comparison. Inside Ancient North City, there were mountains, rivers, buildings, and pavilions. There are all kinds of buildings. Even Sumo couldn't help but praise in her heart. What a magnificent city. In the void, Ancient Shu's cultivators came and went, bustling with activity. However, Sumo and the others didn't need to enter the city, because the teleportation formation was 30 miles away from Ancient North City. It was a quiet valley. In the middle of the valley was the teleportation formation. Ancient Shu's teleportation formation was different from the one in Chaos God's continent. This formation didn't belong to any city or sect. As long as you had enough spirit stones, you could activate it at any time, without anyone's permission or control. Of course, the teleportation consumed a lot of spirit stones. Therefore, there weren't many Ancient Shu cultivators who used this formation. When Sumo saw this teleportation formation, he couldn't help but be shocked, because there were many black stone pillars in the valley. The entire teleportation formation was in the shape of a wide and flat cylinder, 7 or 8 feet tall, and about 100 feet in diameter. It was completely made of black stone pillars. Black light flowed, and light flowed. Ancient Shu's teleportation formation is very different, Sumo said. Ancient Shu's regional teleportation formations are basically passed down from ancient times. Their teleportation ability is extremely strong, and they are abnormally sturdy. We speculate that even under the attack of a Samsara-level cultivator, they can remain unscathed. Unfortunately, there are only 3 such formations in the Ancient Shu continent. Long Yu introduced, as for which ancient cultivator built them, it has always been a mystery. Now, even with Xiaming's power, he can't build such a formation. Sumo sighed and nodded. Even he couldn't completely understand the layout of this formation. This shouldn't be the power of the Pure Land. However, one of the mysteries in his heart was solved. That was the silent death valley of the White Bone continent. It was definitely an ancient teleportation formation site. That was because, apart from the size, they were almost identical. The scale of the transmission array in Silent Death Valley was much larger than the one in the Ancient Shu. However, that formation had been destroyed by an extremely powerful force. If the formation of Silent Death Valley was restored, where would it lead to? Sumo had questions in her mind. However, Long Yu and Long Ge didn't know what Sumo was thinking. They led Su Mo to land at the foot of the northeast side of the formation. This formation had a total of 8 gates. Each door led to a different area of the Ancient Shu. However, it was only a one-way transmission. The 8 regions were all on the Ancient Shu continent. In other words, this ancient formation could only be used for teleportation on the Ancient Shu continent. Long Yu and Long Ge were at the front, while Sumo was at the back. Of course, they were going to teleport directly to the central area of the Ancient Shu. Long Yu had enough top-grade spirit stones on her, so she directly took out 100 of them. This was the consumption of their teleportation this time. 100 top-grade spirit stones for a single teleportation. This kind of consumption would often cause ordinary cultivators to shrink back. They would rather choose other small transmission arrays or flying magic treasures. It would just take a little more time. Not everyone could take out 100 top-grade spirit stones so casually. Long Yu took out the spirit stones and was about to put them into the spirit stone trough of the formation. However, Sumo suddenly frowned. Wait! Sumo stopped Long Yu. Elder Su, what's wrong? Long Yu stopped and looked back in confusion. This is not the area we want to teleport to. Sumo looked up and pointed at the sign in front of the formation. Looking again, the black stone gate actually showed the 4 ancient words Ancient Shu East Region. Long Yu couldn't help but be stunned. Just now, he clearly saw that they were standing in front of the gate of the Ancient Shu Central Region. How had it become the Ancient Shu East Region now? Junior sister, did we come to the Ancient Shu Central Region just now? Long Yu turned his head and asked Longa. Huh. Longa looked up and was also a little unsure. It seems so. I followed you and didn't pay attention. I remember that we came to the ancient Shu central region. But, hearing what she said, Longyu was also a little unsure. After all, every formation gate was actually exactly the same. Let's go. Longyu looked not far away. The gate of the ancient Shu central region was just a few dozen feet away. Therefore, they didn't worry too much. This time, they were all right. So, they went straight to the Great Formation Gate leading to the ancient Shu central region. The 100 spirit stones in Long Yu's hand were directly thrown into the spirit stone trough. Whoosh! The Great Formation lit up. However, just as they were about to step into the ancient formation, they found that the sign on the ancient formation gate actually changed to the 4 words, Ancient Shu East Region. Huh. Long Yu's and Long Ji's expressions changed slightly. Because this time, it was definitely not their mistake to enter the wrong gate, but someone secretly did something. We entered someone else's formation. Sumo looked around, her eyes narrowed slightly, and she felt that something was wrong. Long Ji's elegant eyebrows raised. However, she looked left and right, but she didn't see any flaws. Everything around was very natural, and it didn't seem to be formed by a spell at all. The 3 guests of Een. Long Yu immediately reacted. On the red dust plains, only such existences could cause trouble for them. Otherwise, it was impossible for there to be so-called other formations around this great formation. The black brilliance in Sumo's eyes flashed slightly, and she said with a smile, "It seems that they want to play a small joke on us. This maze doesn't have any attack attributes. However, if we are not careful, we will enter the wrong transmission gate, and thus go to other places in the ancient Shu." At this moment, Long Ji's face was slightly red, because she remembered how she was dissatisfied with the 3 guests of Een before. However, now, she couldn't see through their formation. This was too much of a slap in the face. Long Yu's attainments and formations were inferior to Long Ji's. Therefore, he could only wait and see. It should be said that it was time to test Sumo. After all, he was invited to Xianmeng by Yu Wuji because of the power of formations. At this moment, Sumo's expression was calm, and then she took a slight step forward. Long Yu, Longu, follow me. Long Yu and Longa nodded. Therefore, Sumo was in front, and the Long siblings were behind. Sumo's footwork was very strange. In the eyes of Long Yu and Long Ge, she often took 3 steps forward, and sometimes even walked back to the original place. Sometimes left, sometimes right, sometimes front, sometimes back. However, before long, they arrived in front of an ancient formation. Ancient Shu East Region. Long Yu and Longa looked up. "It's here. Ancient Shu Central Region." Sumo said. "Elder Su, are you sure?" Long Yu asked. "Don't worry, I'm right." Now, every sign at the entrance was covered by a spell. No matter how you look at it, it's Ancient Shu East Region. "Give me the spirit stones." Sumo turned back to Long Yu. In fact, Sumo had spirit stones on her, but it was more appropriate for Long Yu to pay for the teleportation spirit stones. Just now, although they wasted 100 top-grade spirit stones, Xianming was a big family and did not lack these spirit stones. Long Yu took out the spirit stones and directly threw them into the spirit stone slot. Whoosh! The black light rose again, and the formation was activated. "Let's go." Sumo stepped into the formation with Long Yu and Long Ge. At the same time, Sumo formed a seal with her hand, and with a wave of one hand, a spirit talisman appeared outside the formation. Whoosh! Everything in front of Sumo and the other 2 disappeared instantly. It was chaotic, and the mystic light was blurred. They went straight to the ancient Shu Central Region inside the formation. At this time, the 3 guests were lost in the formation that Sumo had set up. As the saying goes, the devil is 10 times higher. Chapter 531. The 3 guests of the Een clan were not ordinary. Although Sumo's spell formation had been set up casually, it was still very complicated. Also, Sumo had borrowed their original spell formation. So, at first, the 3 guests of the Een clan did not notice anything unusual. They thought they had succeeded. Seeing Sumo and the other two enter the spell formation and be teleported out, the three siblings could not help but smile coldly. The so-called world break cultivators of Underworld City were only so good at formations. Then, they were teleported out. However, when they walked out of the spell formation, they discovered that it was not the central region they wanted to go to. They were teleported to the eastern region of the ancient Shu. At that time, they woke up from a dream. The cultivators of Underworld City are indeed quite capable. Meiju smiled charmingly and coldly. Fu and Sho's expressions were very ugly. They were all top-notch array masters, but they never thought that they would be completely fooled. The ancient teleportation spell formation was one way. In the end, they had no choice but to think of a way to get to the central region of the ancient Shu at all costs. Even so, they arrived 7 days later than Sumo and the others. Of course, this was a story for another time. Sumo and the other two were quickly teleported to the central region of the ancient Shu in the spell formation. Once they left the spell formation, they saw a strange mountain in front of them. Long Yu looked at the mountain and could not help but smile. Then he said to Sumo, "Elder Su, Long Yu admires you. We did not go the wrong way. This is the 1,000-Dragon Mountain in the central region of the ancient Shu. If we go forward, we will reach the headquarters of Xianming in less than 100,000 miles." Sumo smiled and nodded. He looked back, and the light of the spell formation had disappeared. They waited for a while, but there was no reaction. Sumo guessed that the three guests of the Yin clan had most likely been teleported to other places. Giving them a taste of their own medicine, Sumo smiled coldly in her heart. In fact, it was fortunate that the three guests of the Yin clan did not have much evil intentions. Otherwise, with Sumo's temperament, they might not even be able to return to the eastern region of the ancient Shu and would be directly destroyed. At this moment, Long Yu formed a seal with both hands, and a small array formation appeared. Long Yu threw a paper crane into the formation. Obviously, he intended to notify Xianming that he'd invited Sumo to the central territory. A journey of 100,000 miles. Long Yu immediately took out her flying-type magic treasure. It was a flying boat called the Shu Boat, a top-grade god-burying treasure. Back then, the three of them had used it to cross the chasm between the ancient Shu continent and the Chaos God continent. Although the flying boat was not as fast as Sumo's Lotus platform, it was still very fast. The three of them boarded the flying boat. Once the Dragon Jade was activated, it could travel 1,000 miles in an instant. The central region of the ancient Shu had many mountains and rivers, and its territory spanned tens of thousands of miles. Looking down from the void, the entire ancient Shu continent was a third of a circle. However, if one were to look at it from a vertical perspective, it would be a bulge in the middle and a flat landform on both sides. Therefore, the central region of the ancient Shu had the highest terrain. The headquarters of the ancient Shu Xianming was on the highest peak of the ancient Shu, the ancient Shu Peak. That was the core location of the ancient Shu. Sumo and the other two went straight to that peak. A journey of 100,000 miles was not far for a god-burying treasure. In less than 2 hours, Sumo and the others had already traveled 80 to 90,000 miles. After a while, Sumo couldn't help but smile faintly. "Your Alliance Master Yu is here." As soon as Sumo's voice fell, Long Yu and Long Gu also felt the spiritual fluctuations in front of them. From here, it was exactly 3,000 miles away from the ancient Shu Divine Peak. Yu Wuji had led the Xianming cultivators to greet them. The spiritual energy was vast, and there were many people. Looking again, there were hundreds of cultivators appearing in the void ahead. Among them, the lowest level was at the early stage of the Undying Realm. This lineup was almost comparable to the Netherworld City, and the leader was Yu Wuji, who was wearing a blue dress and a light veil. Noble and elegant, Yu Wuji had been calm. This might have been because of the Azure Demon's influence. Long Yu and Long Gu strode forward, then they both knelt on one knee. "Messenger of the Xianming, Long Yu." "Messenger of the Xianming, Long Gu." "Greetings, Alliance Master," the brother and sister said at the same time. "Alliance Master, we brothers and sisters did not disappoint you. We have invited Elder Su from the chaotic God continent. Today, we are here to report. Long Yu said solemnly. You two have worked hard. Yu Wuji nodded slightly to show his appreciation. Then, Yu Wuji looked at Sumo. She was a little surprised at first, because Sumo was already at the early stage of the world-breaking realm. With such speed, even Yu Wuji, who knew Sumo's identity as a reincarnator, was slightly surprised. However, Yu Wuji did not show it. Instead, he cupped his hands and bowed. Brother Su, long time no see. How have you been? 300 years in the blink of an eye. Sumo looked at Yu Wuji and smiled. Thanks to Alliance Master, everything is fine. In front of the cultivators of the ancient Shu, the two spoke in a more formal manner. Their identity as reincarnators was still a secret to the cultivators of the ancient Shu. After a few simple greetings, Yu Wuji introduced Sumo to several important people who came with her. There were 5 Alliance Masters in the Xianming. This time, there was another Alliance Master who came with Yu Wuji to welcome Sumo. That was the current family master of the Long family, Long Wansheng. He looked like a middle-aged cultivator, and his realm was at the peak of the god-burying realm. Long Yu and Long Gu were his disciples. In addition, Yu Wuji also brought his left and right protectors, a man and a woman. The male cultivator was called Zhong Yulin, and the female cultivator was called Hua Jianluan. Both of them were very young, and they looked like they were in their 20s. Their realm was at the middle stage of the god-burying realm. Previously, Sumo knew from Long Yu and Long Gu. The Zhong family and the Hua family were among the 7 immortal families of the ancient Shu continent. However, this time, there were no cultivators of the 2 families in the Alliance Master. However, the protectors under the Alliance Master were already very important roles in the Xianming. The 5 Alliance Masters and the 10 protectors. It could be said that they were the core strength of the Xianming. After greeting each other, everyone rushed to the ancient Shu peak of the Xianming. The ancient Shu peak was the first peak of the ancient Shu continent. Its peak was as straight as a sword, pointing to the sky. The clouds were in the middle of the mountain, and the immortal fog was hazy. Sumo, accompanied by Yu Wuji and the others, looked at the ancient Shu peak from afar, and couldn't help but praise it in her heart. The many immortal palaces of the Xianming were either built against the mountain or suspended in midair. They were uneven, messy, but not messy. Among them, there was a large hall at the highest point of the palaces. It was simple and unadorned and had endless pressure. On the horizontal plaque, there were 3 big bold words, Immortal Inquiry Palace. That was the first palace of the Xianming. Yu Wuji led Sumo all the way, stepping on the clouds and entering the main hall. At this time, those who were qualified to enter the main hall were all cultivators above the deity burying level. After entering the hall, the guests and the host took their seats. The other 3 Alliance Masters of the Xianming were either in seclusion or had other matters, and were not at the headquarters of the Xianming. Everyone exchanged a few simple greetings. Then, Sumo went straight to the point. Alliance Master Yu, what kind of tomb did you encounter? What can I do to help? Yu Wuji took a deep look at Sumo, and then said slowly, Brother Su, that tomb is divided into 9 gates. Heaven, earth, human, deity, ghost, monster, immortal, Buddha, and demon. Su Imo sucked in a breath of cold air when he heard this. Chapter 532. Tomb, 9 doors. Heaven, earth, human, God, ghost, Yao, immortal, Buddha, demon. Any reincarnator of the 3 realms would be shocked to hear this, because it corresponded to the 9 coffins. Any reincarnator of the 3 realms would be very sensitive to those 9 words. What's more, it was Sumo. In the 3 realms, the 2 people who had the closest relationship with the 9 coffins were AMU and Sumo. Is that true? Sumo looked at Yu Wuji and asked, How can we joke about something like that? Yu Wuji sighed. We've already broken through the outer perimeter of the tomb, but we can't enter its core region. The entire tomb is circular. It's hard to move through any of the 9 doors. Where is the tomb? Sumo asked directly. 3,000 miles away, Star Soul Valley. Yu Wuji said. Then please lead the way. I want to see it now. Sumo understood. although Yuwuji didn't say it clearly. The reason why she asked Sumo to come was very clear. In the various realms, all coincidences must have a cause and effect. Why did the 9 doors of this tomb correspond to the 9 coffins? Why was it a circle? Then who built the tomb? All of this was enough for Sumo to personally investigate. All right, Yuwuji didn't decline. In fact, she had been looking forward to Sumo's arrival. That was because that tomb was simply too strange. Sumo would definitely feel the same when she arrived. No one delayed any further. And so, the burial god cultivators in the Great Hall left Immortal Inquiry Palace together and went straight to Starsoul Valley. Starsoul Valley was part of the Ancient Shu's central region, the Ancient Shu's mountain range. It covered an area of 100 miles. To be precise, it couldn't be considered a valley. However, the people of the Ancient Shu were used to calling this region that. Outside the Starsoul Valley was the towering Ancient Shu Mountain. To the east of the mountain, there was a huge lake with boundless blue waves. It was called the Dragon Abyss. The mountains and rivers were interdependent, and the surrounding 1,000 miles could be said to be a treasure land. Sumo and the others quickly arrived above Starsoul Valley. Sumo squinted her eyes and took in the entire terrain. Moreover, Sumo immediately saw that the center of Starsoul Valley had already been excavated. Over there is the tomb. Yuwuji pointed with his finger. That was where Sumo was looking. In the void, Sumo could vaguely see a huge stone tablet lying in the valley. There was only one word on it, Berry. However, the aura of that word was extremely shocking. The work of a venerable one was Sumo's first impression. How did you find this tomb? Sumo asked. By chance, a god-burying cultivator from Xianming suddenly disappeared without a trace. Xianming sent people to investigate and found this tomb buried deep underground. Xianming has already excavated Starsoul Valley to a depth of nearly 100 feet. Starsoul Valley is an ancient existence to the Ancient Shu mainland. However, no cultivator has ever discovered anything strange about this place. Now, this place is emitting a strange aura. I think you can feel it, Yuwuji said. Coffin aura. Sumo took a deep breath. Really? Yuwuji could only sense that the aura was special, but she couldn't be sure what it was. After all, she wasn't the previous host of the 9 coffins. She couldn't even control any of the 9 coffins. However, Sumo was different. I can't be wrong. Sumo nodded with certainty. However, the aura is very faint. Even so, cultivators below the Primal Immortal level cannot enter the core area. Primal Immortal? The surrounding Ancient Shu cultivators couldn't understand the conversation between the two. However, Yuwuji knew that the Primal Immortal level corresponded to the One-Life Immortal level of the Hidden World. Ordinary One-Life Immortal level cultivators couldn't even enter the core area of the tomb. You're not one of them, right? Yuwuji chuckled. Because you're not an ordinary cultivator. Sumo nodded. Of course he wouldn't otherwise. At this moment, Sumo's eyes narrowed and black light flickered. 9 rays of light shot into the sky from the depths of her eyes. The 9 rays of light were of different shapes and sizes. However, from Sumo's point of view, they clearly represented the 9 coffins. However, the other cultivators couldn't see them at all, including Yuwuji. They could only sense that the aura here was different. As they spoke, they landed in Starsoul Valley. Many Xianming cultivators were stationed here. When Yuwuji and the other important figures of Xianming arrived, they naturally dispersed. Yuwuji had been walking at the front while they were at the periphery. All the array formations in the periphery had been destroyed. It had to be said that there were still array formation experts in Xianming. Not to mention others, the Alliance leader Long Wansheng was an array formation expert. Many of the array formations in the tomb had been destroyed by him. However, as Yuwuji had said, once they reached the core area of the tomb, the Ancient Shu cultivators couldn't do anything about it. They had already lost some of their top array formation masters. The core tomb was not something they could touch. Sumo observed along the way. She realized that the remnants of the array formations in the periphery did not look like the array formations of the 3 realms. It felt like someone had set up many array formations and restrictions outside the real tomb. However, those array formations and restrictions were not very powerful. Therefore, they were destroyed by Xianming. The road from the periphery tomb to the core tomb spiraled downward. The core tomb was in the deepest part of Star Soul Valley. Judging from the surrounding rock formations, the tomb should have existed for at least 1,000,000 years. It spiraled downward. In order to get a clear view of their surroundings, Su Mo and the others walked slowly. After walking for a full hour, they finally reached the core area of the tomb. It was the bottom of Star Soul Valley, an area with a radius of 100 feet. In the middle was a perfect round platform, completely made of blue-gray stones. It was about 10 feet high and 100 feet in diameter. The brilliance on it was like a mirror, faintly emitting a faint glow. Obviously, it was attached to an array formation. It was a very regular round platform. At that moment, Sumo naturally thought of the karma roulette. And from the way Yuwuji looked at her, Sumo also saw that Yuwuji also felt the same. It did look like a roulette. There were indeed 9 doors around it. The 9 rays of brilliance that Sumo could see seemed to be emitted from those doors. The so-called door was not a stone door, but a door of light that was 9 feet tall and 7 feet wide. Inside each door of light, there was a strange brilliance flowing. The cultivators of the ancient Shu could not tell what level of power it was. However, their deity, Burying Level Array Master, had once fallen in front of the door. He had no chance to walk to the area of 10 feet in front of the door of light. Sumo circled around the tomb. The positions of the 9 doors corresponded to the positions of the 9 coffins on the karma roulette. Heaven, earth, human, God, ghost, Yao, immortal, Buddha, demon, a total of 9 ancient characters were carved on the top of each door. Simple and vigorous. Those characters should have come from the hands of the builders of the tomb. Sumo looked at the 9 characters, her brows slightly furrowed, because they gave her a rather familiar feeling. Chapter 533. Those words seemed to be from an old friend. Sumo's heart jumped. However, he did not dare to jump to conclusions. After all, he had not yet entered the tomb. After walking around, Sumo returned to Yuwuji. "How is it? Are you sure you can go in?" Yuwuji asked. "Let's try," Sumo replied. At the same time, Sumo spoke to Yuwuji alone. "Palace Master Yu, are the people of ancient Shu Xianmeng reliable?" Now, Sumo was a break-world cultivator. So, if she wanted to talk to Yuwuji alone, no one else could intervene. "Reliable," Yuwuji replied. "Today, the Xianmeng cultivators who came with me are all righteous people. Inside Xianmeng, although the 7 great immortal families are not close, the atmosphere is very good, and they are very united. There isn't much mutual deceit or internal strife here. Xianmeng recognizes the brave, the wise, the benevolent, and the strong. Otherwise, how could I become the leader of Xianmeng in 300 years? If there is a Pure Land in the Pure Land world, I am afraid it is the ancient Shu continent. The civilization here is very advanced. Even if the Sanan family does not surrender to them, Xianmeng can treat them fairly. Otherwise, how could the Sanan family walk around the ancient Shu continent without any trouble?" When Suemo heard this, he nodded silently. Such a continent was really strange in the world of cultivation. However, a stable and peaceful world should be the pursuit of every cultivator. Even a galaxy in the past was not such a world. Taking a deep breath, Sumo spoke to Yuwuji, Long Wansheng, and the others. "Everyone, wait here. I will try to enter the tomb." "Be careful," Yuwuji said. "Elder Su, be careful," Long Wansheng added. "If there's danger, don't force it. Your life is more important. Don't worry." Sumo nodded, then once again landed near the circular tomb. Heaven, earth, human, God, ghost, demon, immortal, Buddha, devil, 9 gates. In Sumo's eyes, each of the 9 gates was different. The auras they gave off were different, and the restrictions in front of the doors were also different. Sumo made another round and finally stopped in front of the Devil's Gate. Demon. Sumo still felt closer to him. In the past, he and AMU had fought countless times for the sake of a devil coffin. Therefore, they felt that the devil coffin was different from the other coffins. Thus, Sumo stood in front of the demon gate. At this moment, he was exactly 190 feet away from the door. His heart was pounding slightly. Then, Sumo patted her storage bag, and the little white pig jumped out and landed on Sumo's shoulder. This little fellow's spiritual sense was extremely powerful. Summoning it would give him an early warning of many things. That day, the little white pig followed Sumo back to Sioux City and was kept by Sumo. It was extremely excited when it came out today. However, when the little fellow's eyes scanned the surroundings, a trace of fear flashed across its eyes. That kind of expression was rare in the eyes of the Dracophant's soul-devouring beast. Sumo immediately sensed it and couldn't help but chuckle in her heart. It seemed that this fearless little fellow was actually afraid of the pressure of the 9 coffins. Thus, Sumo raised her hand and gently patted the little fellow's butt. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. Just don't leave my shoulder." The little white pig nodded obediently, once again feeling its master's greatness. Then, it lifted its nose and revealed a pair of snow-white fangs. At the same time, it looked around vigilantly. Dracophant's soul-devouring beast. Many cultivators in Xianming naturally knew their stuff. They couldn't help but exclaim that Sumo really had something good. The 3 divine beasts of the Pure Land were not something that anyone could have. Furthermore, the legendary Dracophant soul-devouring beast had long gone extinct. And at this moment, suddenly, there was a fluctuation of spiritual energy in another direction of the tomb. In an instant, 4 cultivators appeared, 2 males and 2 females. Their attire was very different from the cultivators in Xianming. The 2 male cultivators looked to be in their 30s, both wearing aqua blue robes. Their robes were embroidered with mountains, rivers, and lakes, looking extremely lively. On their faces, the 2 male cultivators were as white as jade, extremely handsome, and had an extraordinary temperament. From the looks of it, they were a pair of brothers. Both of them were soul-bearing middle-stage cultivators. The 2 female cultivators were a bit younger. They looked to be in their 20s. Both of them wore red robes, embroidered with rising flames. They were beautiful, tall, and had snow-white skin. Of the 2 female cultivators, one was soul-bearing late stage, and the other was actually soul-bearing peak stage. As soon as these 4 cultivators appeared, many cultivators in Xianming frowned. Sanan family. The people from the Chu family and the Gu family. In fact, it was no one else. They were the Chu brothers mentioned by the 3 Yin guests, Chu Fei and Chu Yun, as well as the Gu sisters, Gu Xing and Gu Yu. Originally, the top array masters of the Sanan family had agreed to meet at the peak of Tianshui Mountain. However, when the 4 of them arrived, they did not see the 3 Yin guests, and they had completely lost contact with them. Tianshui Mountain was just 3,000 miles away from the Star Soul Valley. They could not wait for the 3 Yin guests, and they had already sensed that the cultivators of Xianming were coming from the ancient Shu Peak. Therefore, they rushed over first. Everyone knew that they had to be the first to enter such a tomb. Just in time, they caught up with Sumo, who was about to enter the tomb. "Alliance Master Yu, Alliance Master long time no see." Chu Fei, the oldest of the 4, spoke and cupped his fists at Yu Wuji and Long watching from afar. Chu Yun, Gu Xing, and Gu Yu also cupped their hands and bowed. Chu Fei was a disciple that the Chu family had focused on cultivating. He had known Yu Wuji and Long Wancheng for a long time. "Young Master Chu, long time no see." Yu Wuji replied with a smile. Long Wancheng also nodded with a smile. "Does the Sanan family also want to break the array and enter the tomb to have a look?" Yu Wuji asked. "Our Xianming has been blocked." "Huh." Chu Fei nodded. "I heard that there's an unparalleled secret tomb here, and the Sanan family naturally does not want to miss it. Since Xianming is blocked, why don't we try it? Alliance Master, you won't allow it, right?" "How can that be?" Yu Wuji said. "According to the rules of the ancient Shu continent, those who are capable and virtuous can live there. The periphery of the tomb has been cleaned up by our Xianming. If young Master Chu can enter the core area, we will wait and see, and we will not stop you. Thank you. Chu Fei nodded with a smile. If the Sanan family can get the treasure, we will definitely give one to Xianming. Well said, Yu Wuji said. Listening to their conversation, Sumo could not help but feel interested. The relationship between Xianming and the Sanan family was indeed interesting. The cultivators of the ancient Shu continent truly had the style of gentlemen. Chu Fei and the others looked at Sumo again, but they just nodded and did not speak. Only Gu Yu, who had the highest cultivation, looked at Sumo for a longer time. There was only one line between the completion of the buried god realm and the early stage of the broken world. However, it was very likely that many cultivators could not cross this line in their lifetime. Chu Fei and the others chose to stand in front of the Ghost Gate. There were 3 gates between the Ghost Gate and the Demon Gate. Originally, Sumo already wanted to enter the array. However, seeing the 4 of them coming, he stopped. He wanted to see how they would break the array. Ghost Gate? Sumo thought in his heart, if the dragon's saliva came, it was estimated that they could almost enter. But the others? Ha! Sumo could only sneer in his heart. The 3 realms and 9 coffins could not be desecrated. Chapter 534. Tomb outside the Ghost Gate. Chu Fei, Chu Yun, Gu Xing, and Gu Yu were the backbone of the Sanan family, and they were all top formation masters. The ability of the 4 of them was even above that of the 3 Yin swordsmen. At this time, the 4 of them stood in a diamond shape in front of the Ghost Gate. Chu Fei stood at the forefront, like an arrow. Chu Yun and Gu Xing stood on both sides of him, forming 2 wings. Gu Yu, who had the highest cultivation, was at the back, in case of any accidents. Looking at their positions, Sumo couldn't help nodding secretly. It had to be said that these 4 people's attainments and formations were indeed extraordinary. In the case of 4 cultivators entering the formation at the same time, their positions could be said to be the perfect choice. Their positions coincided with the 4 symbols, and their left and right feet stepped on the meaning of the 8 diagrams, which could be said to be both offensive and defensive. In fact, if the 3 Yin swordsmen were here, they could form a more powerful formation. However, that was all they could do at the moment. Looking again, there were already ripples under the feet of the 4 of them, and those ripples gradually merged into one. At that moment, they were 3 feet above the ground, as if they were walking on a lake. The secret method of the ancient Shu was indeed something. Suemo looked at all of this with interest. In her eyes, the brilliance in the Ghost Gate also began to fluctuate slightly. That was a reaction to the enemy. The ancient Shu cultivators, led by Yu Wuji and Long Wansheng, also held their breaths and watched the battle carefully. Could the formation masters of the Sanan family really enter the formation? Chu Fei, Chu Yun, Gu Xing, and Gu Yu all looked very serious. They understood that the formation in front of them was probably the most powerful formation they had ever seen in their lives. In fact, it was not only powerful, but also strange. Although they couldn't see the 9 rays of brilliance like Sumo, the instinct of the formation masters made them not dare to take it lightly. The formation master who died in Xianming was also a top-notch one. This was also the reason why the Sanan family had to come together. Chu Fei turned his hand and held a palm-sized compass in his palm. The compass exuded an extremely simple brilliance. At first glance, it was obvious that it was a treasure. At the same time, the other 3 also held their respective magic weapons. Chu Yin took out an ancient mirror. It was a mirror with a completely restrained brilliance. The surface of the mirror was as black as ink, without any reflections. There was an oil lamp in front of Gu Xing. The oil lamp looked no different from an ordinary oil lamp. In fact, it was stained with oil. However, the flame of the oil lamp was divided into 5 colors. There was wind in the valley, but the flame of the oil lamp did not move as if it was a fake flame. Most special of all was Gu Yu. She did not take out any Dharma treasures. Instead, a crescent moon appeared above her head. The silver moonlight shone on Gu Yu's body. It was an absolute defense. Looking at that crescent moon, Sumo knew that Gu Yu's cultivation constitution was far beyond that of ordinary cultivators. It was an existence similar to the various special immortal bodies of the three realms. The seriousness of the San'an cultivators slightly shocked the Xianmeng cultivators. From the looks of it, they were determined to win. Yu Wuji couldn't help but sneak a glance at Sumo, only to see that Sumo was calm and composed, not the slightest bit moved. Only then did he feel a little relieved. It seemed that Sumo knew what to do and wouldn't let the other party enter the tomb first. Chu Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. He first glanced at Sumo, then at the tomb, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Enter the array. As he gave the order, the water ripples under the four of their feet gently swayed. None of them lifted their feet. The water ripples carried the four of them straight to the ghost gate. They were only 200 feet away from the ghost gate. In an instant, they flew 100 feet away. Whoosh! The Xianmeng cultivators let out a cry of surprise. That was because just that one move had already exceeded the Celestial Alliance Formation Master. It should be noted that the Array Master of Xianmeng had already been attacked by an inexplicable force at this time. However, Chu Fei and the other three were as steady as Mount Tai. Sumo, on the other hand, had a faint smile on her face. She saw the black and red brilliance above the ghost gate churning. It was a kind of gathering of power. 100 feet. Chu Fei looked at the ghost gate again. At this time, the needle on the compass in his hand began to tremble uncontrollably. That meant that there was an extremely dangerous force ahead. Chu Fei's eyes focused, and he moved to the left. Whoosh! The four of them deviated from their previous route and moved diagonally. Chi! Chi! The air was filled with the sound of hissing. The others might not understand, but Sumo saw it clearly. Just now, Chu Fei and the other three dodged the attack of the black and red brilliance. She had to admit that the four of them were indeed skilled. The compass in Chu Fei's hand was also very sharp. 90 feet, 80 feet, 70 feet. Chu Fei's movements became faster and faster. In an instant, he had already changed his direction 3 times. They were only 70 feet away from the ghost gate. In other words, they had dodged the attack of the ghost gate 3 times. All the Celestial Alliance cultivators couldn't help but exclaim. The top array master of the San'an clan really lived up to his name. Sumo could not help but nod slightly. Their footwork was not wrong at all. However, at this time, Chu Fei and the other three, who were in the array, felt the endless power surging like a tide. Their faces became more and more serious. This tomb was more difficult to enter than he had expected. The 3 steps just now seemed easy, but in fact, it was extremely difficult. 70 feet away, Chu Fei stopped for the time being. Because the compass in his hand was a little unstable, there seemed to be no way ahead. There seemed to be an invisible high wall in front of them. There was no gap, and there was no way to go. It was Gu Xing who said, in 3 breaths, 7.5 feet to the left. The flame of the oil lamp in front of her finally flickered slightly. Whoosh! Chu Fei took everyone straight over according to Gu Xing's instructions. Boom! The 4 of them landed safely. However, there was a loud noise beside them. It was like a muffled thunder. Just now, they barely dodged the attack of the array. However, their protective spiritual chi had already collided with the chi of the ghost gate. 2 breaths. 5 feet to the right. Gu Xing spoke very quickly. The 4 of them rushed forward without hesitation. Boom, 1 breath. Turn 3 feet to the left. Gu Xing almost shouted. Boom, crack. The 4 of them were like walking in the thunderclouds. All the cultivators around felt that the aura of the tomb was undergoing a qualitative change. In the Star Soul Valley, thunderclouds were dense, and the power of the sky was endless. At that moment, it seemed to have disturbed ghosts and gods. Crack! Boom! In front of the ghost gate, the air waves were like clouds. The expressions of Chu Fei and the other 3 suddenly changed. Ahead, 10 feet. Go! The light of the oil lamp in front of Gu Xing flickered like a candle in the wind. Her voice had changed a little. Whoosh! The 4 of them rushed forward like arrows. However, this time, they did not have time to land. Boom! Crack! A black and red mystic light cut down from the sky. When Chu Fei saw it, he suddenly raised the compass in his hand. The compass instantly became more than 10 feet long. It shone with thousands of lights and directly protected the four of them. However, the wheel could not stop the power of the ghost gate at all. Crack, crack, there was an explosive sound. The world-breaking treasure was directly cut in half. At the same time, several black and red lights, like flood dragons, directly attacked the four of them, because they had already lost their position in the formation. Whoosh, Chu Yun's body directly retreated. At this time, the advantage of their position was reflected. Chu Yun took the lead, while Chu Fei and Gu Xing moved forward. Chu Yun's ancient mirror suddenly released a black light, like a dark cloud. Boom! However, the black light was directly dispersed by the power of the ghost gate. The oil lamp above Gu Xing's head flickered and was almost extinguished. Gu Xing made a seal, and the oil lamp emitted five-colored light. Originally, the five-colored light was a powerful protection. However, in front of the power of the ghost gate, it was completely vulnerable. Boom! Bang! The five-colored light suddenly scattered, and there was no chance for it to take shape. The faces of Chu Fei, Chu Yun, and Gu Xing instantly turned pale. This was because an incomparably powerful pressure was directly pressing down on their souls. They felt that they were about to fall into the big formation. Whoa! The three of them almost spat out blood at the same time, looking embarrassed. Retreat! Moon and Moon! At this moment, Gu Yu, who was lagging behind, shouted. Her long hair suddenly spread out. The crescent moon above her head shone with a silver light. Her long dress fluttered in the wind as she suddenly flew up. She had broken away from the water pattern they had shared before. Let's go, Gu Yu shouted. At the same time, she raised her hand, finally summoning a magic treasure. Unfortunately, apart from Sumo, no one could see what it was. A ray of silver light broke through everything and rushed out of the array. At the same time, Gu Yu waved her hand and used the silver light to send Chu Fei and the others out of the formation. Junior sister Gu, little sister, Chu Fei, Chu Yun, and Gu Xing shouted almost at the same time. However, the spiritual energy waves directly drowned out their voices. Gu Yu had saved them, but she herself had already fallen into the formation. Boom! Crack! The silver bridge vision above her head instantly collapsed. He! With a ghostly scream, the black and red tide-like power swept directly toward Gu Yu. The red dress was instantly drowned. Even the ancient Shu cultivators frowned. A cultivator at the great completion of the divine burying realm had died, just like that. Who wouldn't sigh when the rabbit died? However, among the people present, only Sumo's pupils shrank slightly, because he could see what other cultivators couldn't. In the black and red tide, Gu Yu didn't just sit still and wait for death. Even though her avatar had been shattered and she was heavily injured, she was still able to maintain her composure. But Gu Yu still had a secret skill. In the black and red tide, Gu Yu quickly made a hand seal. The power of the great completion of the divine burying realm burst out. In an instant, her red dress glowed with endless white light, and everyone felt the surrounding space suddenly freeze. Then the air in the entire Starsoul Valley seemed to freeze. The temperature plummeted. The speed of the cooling was far beyond everyone's imagination. In an instant, the entire Starsoul Valley was like an ice valley. Especially in front of the Devil Gate, there was a huge ice palace. Cold air filled the air. The power of the Devil Gate was frozen by Gu Yu. In the ice palace, the black and red light flowed like water, but at an extremely slow speed. At the same time, Gu Yu was slowly withdrawing, but her movement was even more difficult. For a moment, the ghostly screams stopped. The entire bottom of the Starsoul Valley was already covered in snow, and when it touched the ground, it instantly turned into icicles. That was a heaven-defying skill. This skill stunned all the cultivators of Xianming. Gu Yu was still alive? At this moment, Yu Wuji's eyes flashed with shock. She immediately looked at Sumo. Sumo's eyes also emitted a strange light. It wasn't because Gu Yu was still alive, but because of her skill. Because it was a skill of the three realms. And within the three realms, there was only one person who could use such a freezing skill. Crack, crack. Guyu's skill was indeed powerful, but unfortunately, it was not used by a human. Guyu's Tao technique had yet to reach the pinnacle of perfection and perfection. Her realm had limited everything. The ice palace started to crack. It couldn't completely freeze the Devil Gate's power. Everything started to loosen. Boom! Crack! It suddenly exploded. Icicles filled the sky, and stars fell like rain. Puff! The red dress Guyu was swept up by the Devil Gate's power, blood spurting out like a rainbow. She still couldn't resist the Devil Gate. This time, if she fell into the array, she would die without a doubt. Yu Wuji wanted to help, but he didn't have the ability. But Sumo made his move. Just as Guyu was about to fall, Sumo's body moved, turned into a black light, and was already in the air. He waved one hand, and a strong force wrapped around Guyu's body, then quickly pulled her back. Sumo landed lightly outside the array, unharmed. At that moment, everyone was still in a daze. Wah! Guyu spat out 2 mouthfuls of blood after being rescued by Sumo. She was on the verge of collapse, and her face was as pale as paper. Her vision was broken, and she was seriously injured. This time, it was as if Su Mo had saved her life. Little sister, junior sister Gu. Gu Xing and the others rushed over. Gu Xing immediately took out an elixir from his arms and fed it to Guyu. At this time, Guyu was still conscious. Many thanks. Guyu looked at Su Mo and said these 2 words with difficulty. Sumo asked, "Who is your master?" Hearing Sumo's words, Guyu couldn't help but shake her head gently. The look in her eyes was a little strange, as if she didn't want to talk about her master with others. Sumo looked at Guyu and sighed. "Little girl, I know even if you don't tell me. What you just used was the magic of the 3 realms. And there is only one person in the entire 3 realms who can use that magic. Morong Haiqing, the successor of the Sea region." As soon as she said that, Guyu looked at Sumo in a daze and didn't say anything for a long time. Chapter 536. The Vast Sea's Successor, Morong Haiqing. The other Xianming cultivators didn't understand this sentence, but Yu Wuji heard it clearly. In fact, she had noticed that Guyu's technique was somewhat familiar, but she wasn't sure. Ancient vast sea current? Yu Wuji was shocked. Back then, Lian's body was taken away by Murong Huang and rushed out of the 3 realms sacred mountain. The ancient vast sea current's 100-generation mission ended there. After that, Amu and the Dark Sovereign fought. The 3 realms shattered, and the Star River became eternal. The vast sea lineage. Amu left the 3 realms, and Mo Lang went into seclusion with the Huan flower. Lung Yu and Murong Haiqing, the master-disciple pair, were nowhere in the Star River. The Star River shattered, and in theory, they should be cultivators who could reincarnate, because they reached the eternal realm. The ancient vast sea current was the middle stream of the 3 realms. Murong Haiqing, the 100th generation successor of the ancient vast sea current, Amu's only junior sister. It could be said that she had always lived under Amu's powerful aura. In fact, many people only knew Amu, not Murong Haiqing. But there was no ordinary cultivator among the disciples of the ancient vast sea current. Murong Haiqing had the 9 body and was born with the coldest Yin energy. In terms of ice techniques, she was the number 1 in the 3 realms. Guyu of the Sanan Gu family was actually Murong Haiqing's successor. This was unbelievable. I'm right, aren't I? Sumo asked Guyu. Guyu's face was pale, and she hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. Who are you? The Star River Reincarnator. Guyu asked. Hee. Sumo smiled. It seemed that Guyu knew about the 3 realms galaxy. Little girl, you'll find out who I am soon enough. Let me ask you, where's your master? My master isn't in the Pure Land, and I don't know where she went. Guyu said she left tens of thousands of years ago, and I'm not allowed to reveal anything about her. Is she alone? Sumo said. Alone. Guyu nodded. She said she was going to find someone. Who are you looking for? Sumo asked. Master didn't say. Guyu's eyes were filled with reminiscence. Master was very lonely. She said she had no company in the world. Perhaps what she wanted was a companion. She accepted me as a disciple because of my extreme in-body. However, I don't know what a blue sea descendant is. I only know that Master came from another so-called galaxy world and her name. Murong Haiqing. Sumo sighed and said to herself. He didn't know if Murong Haiqing had escaped the shattering of the galaxy or if he was reincarnated. She said she's a reincarnator? Sumo asked. No. Master said she's not a reincarnator. Guyu replied. She said that she was a transmigrator, and when the Star River shattered, she directly arrived at a hidden world. Oh, Sumo was startled. A transmigrator. Is there someone in the three realms who has transmigrated to a hidden world without experiencing the process of reincarnation and awakening? This was good news for Sumo. Today, your master saved you. Sumo smiled faintly at Guyu. If I hadn't recognized your master, I might not have saved you. Thank you, Senior, Guyu said. Thank you, Senior. Gu Xing and the Chu brothers didn't understand the conversation between them, but they hurriedly thanked her. At this time, they had completely put away their complacency and even a little arrogance. In front of the tomb, they were completely vulnerable. Just now, if Guyu hadn't risked her life to send them out, they would all have died in front of the Ghost Gate. And they were still 3 or 4 meters away from the Ghost Gate. It was even more difficult to say what would happen after entering the tomb. They were not qualified or able to enter the tomb. Everyone, you're not going to break the array again, are you? Sumo asked with a smile. Then I'll have a try. Chu Fei's face turned slightly red, and then he bowed and said, Senior, please do as you please. All of them knew that Su Mo had just saved Guyu from the spell formation with ease, and they all knew that this was the case. Sumo's realm and attainments in arrays must be above theirs. Okay, Sumo nodded. Then he patted the little white pig and said with a smile, Humph, let's go. Humph. The little fellow's expression was not as relaxed as that of Sumo. It had clearly seen everything that had happened just now. The 4 gods of burial had almost all died. That was simply a disproportionate confrontation. That tomb was too powerful. Although its master had gone in to save them just now, it was also in a trance just now and came out. If it really entered the array, the little white pig was really a little afraid. Humph! The little white pig snorted, half curled up, and tightly leaned against Sumo's neck. A pair of long fangs emitted a faint white light and seemed to be trembling slightly. At the same time, the little white pig's round eyes looked down. It was aiming at Sumo's storage bag. The little fellow was thinking about how it could slide along Sumo's body into the storage bag if there was danger later. The angle, strength, and timing had to be prepared. Otherwise, it would be terrible if it fell to the ground. The little white pig really did not have much confidence. Sumo could not help but smile playfully. He could completely sense the little white pig's careful thoughts. Thus, Sumo did not bat an eyelid, and with a light pat, directly sealed the storage bag. Humph! The little white pig's big watery eyes were filled with a look of despair. Master, do you have to do this? Leave me a way out. It looks like at this critical moment, I have to run back to the soul altar, the little white pig thought to himself. It still had a way out. Sumo did not care about that. He looked at the Ghost Gate. After saving Guyu, Sumo did not go to the Demon Gate. Instead, he stood in front of the Ghost Gate. For him, it was not a problem to go through any door. At this time, the Ghost Gate was still filled with a black fog, and a red light was shooting into the sky. Hee hee hee. Hee hee. The ghost screams had not yet faded away. The Ghost Gate seemed to be waiting for the second wave of people to enter the array to challenge it. At this time, the Xianming cultivators had seen the defeat of the 3 South cultivators, and they could not help but feel a little scared. In fact, they all understood that when Chu Fei and the other 3 joined the array, their power was no less than a break-world cultivator. But the result was that they were almost wiped out. Alliance Master Yu? Long Wanqing couldn't help but look at Yu Wuji. Yu Wuji understood what Long Wanqing was worried about. He will make his own decision. It will not be a big problem, Yu Wuji said. When Long Wansheng heard that, he did not say anything. After all, Yuwuji knew Sumo better. Sumo was going to enter the array, and all the cultivators there were ready to face a big enemy. No matter if it was the Xianming cultivators or the Three South cultivators, they all felt the same. In front of the tomb, they were on the same side. They knew that there might be a big fight soon. The reason why Sumo chose to go through the Ghost Gate was because he felt that it would be more shocking, especially compared to Chu Fei, Guyu, and the others. It would show how strong he was. Sumo's goal was to make all the Xianming cultivators surrender. He understood that one of the reasons Yu Wuji asked him to come to the ancient Shu was to unify the ancient Shu and use it for himself. Whoosh! Sumo moved and went straight to the Ghost Gate. Chapter 537. In front of the Ghost Gate, there was a black mist, and the red light was like blood. Around the tomb, all the cultivators held their breath and watched. After all, when the Three South cultivators entered the Ghost Gate, the ground shook and the wind and clouds changed colors. If Sumo entered the formation, there would be a shocking fight. In fact, it wasn't just the cultivators around the tomb who were watching. A few break-world monsters on the ancient Shu continent were looking at the tomb. The reason for that was because this tomb was truly too strange. In the void, there was a city floating in the air. On the gate of the city, a white-clothed lady was standing next to a fat man who looked like a ball. "Big lady, do you think little Su can do it?" Guan Xiong asked nervously. "If he can't, I am afraid others can't either." Miao Long frowned. "But I'm afraid there will be a fight." "Big lady, are you not going to do anything?" Guan Xiong looked at Miao Long. "Me?" Miao Long stared at Guan Xiong. "You are afraid something will happen to Sumo. Aren't you afraid I will be trapped in the formation? Although I'm out, I'm just an NC realm cultivator. If I go, I might not make it back. I am not a reincarnator." Guan Xiong blinked and did not say anything. "Little fatty, if you enter the formation, I will risk my life to save you." "Sumo, good luck to him," Miao Long said angrily. Sigh. Guan Xiong had nothing to say. "Little Su, take care of yourself. I try my best." Guan Xiong sighed and thought, "If you die, I will collect your body. Of course, that is if you have a body." Miao Long, and Guan Xiong were watching the fight. Let's talk about Sumo. In front of the Ghost Gate, the atmosphere was tense. Sumo's expression was worth pondering. It wasn't a look of nervousness or solemnity, but a look of faint joy mixed with a hint of sadness. It was hard to explain. That look was special. With one step, Sumo was 10 meters away from the Ghost Gate. In front of him was an endless black mist. However, Sumo did not use any treasures or weird scenes like the bright moon. The cultivators watching the battle were confused. Even Sumo's aura was very peaceful. The break-world power was not revealed at all. On the other hand, the little white pig on its shoulder released a break-world presence. That little fellow was already very powerful now. The black tide was accompanied by ghostly cries. Sumo raised her head. The reflection in his eyes was clear and bright. In his eyes, there was no shocking mist at all. The two ancient characters of the Ghost Gate were within his reach. One step. Sumo calmly lifted her foot and took a step forward. Universe step. One step of life and death. Everyone thought that Sumo would definitely activate the array. This was because a distance of 10 feet from the Ghost Gate was already a boundary. However, an inconceivable scene happened. When Sumo stepped into the 10 feet mark, the ghost cries stopped abruptly. The cloud-like black fog did not attack. Instead, it retreated to the two sides, like seawater flowing in reverse. Between the black mist was a 7-foot wide path. Whoosh! The cultivators around the tomb were in an uproar. Chu Fei, Guyu, and the other cultivators of the Three South regions were stunned because they knew how terrible the power inside the array was. What was going on? Did the array open naturally? This was not breaking the array at all. It was the Ghost Gate that was welcoming Sumo. Hiss! On the old Shu continent, a few break-world old monsters were in their caves. They all sucked in a cold breath. There were countless ancient Shu tombs. It was common for top array masters to break the array easily. However, they had never seen such a scene before. After the exclamation, the entire place was silent. At that moment, the air seemed to freeze and time stood still. Sumo's steps were slow. The tides on both sides kept rolling, but it was calm and silent. Her long black robe moved slightly. Sumo walked in the ghost gate array as if she was inspecting it. There was no doubt that she was a king. 10 feet, 90 feet, 80 feet, 70 feet. Sumo didn't suffer any attacks. The black mist tide seemed to be crawling on the ground, and the red, murderous aura disappeared silently. That scene really shocked all the cultivators. When it was 90 feet away from the ghost gate, the little white pig groaned and finally stood up. Because it was sure that nothing had happened, it naturally showed off. The power of the ghost gate seemed to be afraid of its master. Thus, it puffed up its belly and stood as upright as possible on Sumo's shoulder, nodding its head repeatedly. His appearance was originally a little amusing. However, no cultivator could laugh at this time. They were all shocked by Sumo. Especially when the 3 South cultivators were defeated, it formed a sharp contrast. If Chu Fei, Gu Yu, and the others hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. At the top of the northern cold city, Guan Xiong said excitedly, "Little Su, good job. Sumo, underworld lord. You are really powerful." Miao Long smiled and gently shook his head. Such an ability was definitely a gift from the heavens. No one could compete with her. Yu Wuji nodded with a smile. Long Wansheng and the others were convinced that Sumo was indeed a peerless overlord. Alliance Master, you had found the right person. Meanwhile, Sumo had arrived at the Ghost Gate. The surroundings of the tomb had completely returned to how it was before. The sky was clear and the mist had dispersed. Phew! All the cultivators around let out a long breath, as if Sumo had helped them conquer a demon. Sumo stood in front of the Ghost Gate with a complicated look on his face. At that moment, the 9-dragon deity platform in his body buzzed. It was a kind of resonance. Sumo knew that the 9-dragon deity platform in his body was very special. In fact, to some extent, the 9-dragon deity platform was a small version of the karma roulette, because it was made of karma fragments. The aura of the 9 coffins was on the 9-dragon deity platform. Buzz! Sumo's Dan C was shaking. Sumo knew that the tomb was summoning him. In other words, this tomb had always been waiting for an existence like him. "I'm coming," Sumo thought to himself. Then, he gently reached out his hand and pressed on the faint light of the Ghost Gate. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths. Yu Wuji raised his brows again, because no one could guarantee that there would not be any sudden changes or accidents. But everything was peaceful. Sumo's hand felt a warmth that he hadn't felt for a long time. The tomb was like a small 3 realms. At that moment, Sumo's hand was trembling. He could not control his emotions. Whoosh! The light door opened. The cultivators outside the tomb were dazzled. Sumo's figure suddenly disappeared. Sumo had entered the tomb. Boom! Rumble! The tomb shook slightly. Then, other than the Ghost Gate, the other 9 light doors began to close. The light disappeared, revealing the greenish-gray color of the stone. At that moment, Sumo was inside the tomb. Through a long tunnel, he saw a green figure standing in the center of the tomb with his hands behind his back. It's him. Sumo's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 538. In life, there were always countless reunions, and some reunions were destined to be a turning point in life. Passing through the gates of hell, Sumo could be said to be safe and sound. And inside the gates of hell, there was a long tunnel. That tunnel, unlike ordinary tunnels, was not dim and lightless. Instead, it was relatively bright, because on both sides, the bluish-gray stone walls were emitting a faint glow. That was a curved tunnel. Sumo spread out his divine sense. However, this tunnel seemed to be able to absorb people's divine sense. Unexpectedly, Sumo could not probe very far, but there was a strange feeling in his heart. He was about to meet a special person. Sure enough, not far away, after turning a corner, it was the end of the tunnel. In front of Sumo, it suddenly became clear. He had already reached the center of the tomb. There was still a circle. And in the position of the circle, a man in a green robe was standing with his hands behind his back facing him. At that moment, Sumo's heart suddenly shook. Because that figure, he was too familiar. Even at that moment, Sumo stood at the end of the gates of Hell Tunnel in a daze, unable to move. However, that figure was not a real cultivator, but a divine sense. At this moment, the figure in green slowly turned around and looked at Sumo. He was warm and smiling, and his expression was gentle. "Yu Ming, how have you been?" The tone of the divine sense in green was calm, as if he had already expected everything and waited here for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. "Songhai, long time no see." Sumo finally walked to the center of the tomb and then let out a long sigh. In fact, when he saw the writing on the 9 gates of tomb, he felt that it was like the writing of Songhai. But he dared not believe it. Here, he could actually see Songhai. Could it be this was the tomb of Songhai? Songhai and Yu Ming were the front and back of the karma roulette. Before, every time they met, it was inevitably accompanied by destruction and rebirth. Today, it was probably the most peaceful meeting between them. "Yu Ming, I didn't expect that the first one to come in would be you." The blue sea divine sense laughed. "I thought it was some other cultivator who could control the 9 coffins by chance. I really don't dare to hope that it's you or AMU who comes in." "Where's your real body?" Sumo asked with a frown. He knew that this was only a blue sea divine sense. "True body." Blue sea divine sense shook its head and laughed. "Netherworld, don't ever think about my true body again. The real me is already reincarnated and entered the mortal Tao. I will no longer cultivate." "What?" Sumo raised an eyebrow. "What did you say?" Sumo thought that she had misheard. "Entering the mortal Tao from the vast sea? How could this be?" "Netherworld." The blue sea divine sense's eyes dimmed, and then it sighed softly. "Back then, you were right. There was no immortality in this world. Perhaps I should let the 3 realms continue to reincarnate and not live forever. That way, even though everything in the 3 realms will go through a cycle and be trapped on the wheel, it won't be destroyed, returning to the same place. In a sense, isn't it a kind of eternity? Unfortunately, or rather, AMU, personally broke the wheel." Blue Sea Divine Sense's eyes flashed with pain and confusion. Then he looked at Sumo. "Netherworld, I don't know if everything I did was right or wrong. In fact, I was the one who caused the destruction of the galaxy." Blue Sea Divine Sense's voice trembled slightly. This was the first time in countless years that Sumo had heard Blue Sea speak in such a tone and voice. It was a deep sense of self-blame. "Blue Sea, in the infinite worlds, there is no right or wrong. There is only one choice." Sumo's voice was very calm. Perhaps it was because he had suffered more failure and pain than Blue Sea. Therefore, at this time, Netherworld's heart was stronger than Blue Sea's. Perhaps. Blue Sea smiled helplessly. "But everything is in the past. Perhaps it can still be reversed. No matter what, I am tired." Sumo frowned as he looked at Blue Sea. This wasn't the omnipotent and determined Blue Sea in her memory. In the eyes of Blue Sea Divine Sense, Sumo not only saw endless vicissitudes of life, but also an indescribable feeling. It was a look of sorrow. "Where's AMU? How did you separate from him?" "Blue Sea, do you know the secret of the galaxy shattering?" Sumo's tone was a little anxious. "I don't know where AMU is." Blue Sea shook his head. "But he definitely isn't free. Otherwise, he would have found this place long ago. Because he and I are one. That year, after our battle, AMU left the 3 realms, but I didn't. In the end, I stayed to accompany Green Soul." Blue Sea smiled as if it was a correct choice. On Dream Traversing Island, the same reason continued. The scenery of the galaxy was indeed beautiful. It was more gorgeous and dazzling than the 3 realms. Blue Sea said, "Green Soul and I spent tens of thousands of years on that planet. That was the most beautiful time of my life." Then, Blue Sea's voice paused slightly. "Then the galaxy shattered." Sumo looked at Blue Sea and said, "Blue Sea, my memory isn't complete. I only remember that after our battle, the karma shattered. I don't remember anything from the Galaxy era. Tell me, what happened in the Galaxy era? What kind of power destroyed the Star River? Blue Sea was silent. He was hesitating. Blue Sea, tell me. You must know the truth, Sumo said in a low voice. So what if I know? Blue Sea's eyes were blank as he asked Sumo. I want to restore the three realms and rebuild the galaxy. Sumo said. Blue Sea was stunned when he heard Sumo's words. Then, he couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Blue Sea, you don't believe me, Sumo said. Blue Sea shook his head, his eyes filled with sorrow. Nether, it's not that I don't believe you. I'm just laughing at myself. Back then, I stirred the karma roulette with the determination to die. Change and eternal life. That is the future I created for the three realms. But the final result is not what I want. I'm afraid that you will follow in my footsteps. Blue Sea's divine sense looked at Sumo very seriously. It doesn't matter. Sumo smiled coldly. Blue Sea, you should understand. As long as we are alive, there is no result. Since I have awakened from reincarnation, I am willing to turn back into dust for the three realms and the galaxy. Nether. Blue Sea looked at Sumo, his eyes filled with endless complexity. In fact, they were brothers born from the same root. They were both born on the roulette, one positive and one negative. I am you, and you are me. They represented everything in the three realms. Gradually, Blue Sea's eyes returned to calmness. Nether, do you know about lotus flowers? Blue Sea asked a question that seemed to have nothing to do with the topic just now. It was even a very stupid question. Lotus flowers? Sumo was slightly stunned. But, of course, she understood that every word Blue Sea said must have his reasons. Therefore, Sumo nodded. Blue Sea smiled and said, But you definitely don't know that there's a kind of lotus called the realm lotus. That kind of lotus only has 9 lotus seeds. Chapter 539. Realm Lotus? 9 lotus seeds? Sumo stared at Songhai. For a time, she didn't know what Songhai was trying to say. One flower, one world, one leaf, one universe. Songhai smiled. Netherworld. In fact, you and I could recreate the world and rebirth the universe. But you and I couldn't plant a lotus, and our three realms is only a lotus flower in the vast universe. A lotus flower? Sumo frowned. Realm lotus? That's right. Songhai sighed. We used to think that the three realms was vast and boundless. But, in reality, it is only a realm lotus, and an immature realm lotus at that. An immature realm lotus? The three realms turning into a galaxy isn't a change in essence. It can only be regarded as the realm lotus blooming once again. Songhai smiled helplessly. Everything we did in the past was just a catalyst for the three realms, allowing the blooming of the three realms lotus flower to take a step forward. After blooming, it withers? Sumo frowned. In truth, a truly matured world lotus is basically invincible and can exist for all eternity. Blue Sea sighed, but a matured world lotus is truly hard to find. In the beginning, a realm lotus will only bear one lotus seed, and then it will go dormant. I don't know how many tens of thousands of years it will wake up again and then enter its second life cycle. After it bears 2 lotus seeds, it will go dormant again. And so on and so forth. Songhai smiled. His eyes once again revealed the kind of depth that he once possessed. Sumo frowned, listening very seriously. It is a process of growth and continuous evolution. Songhai sighed again. I'm afraid no one can say how much time is needed to bear 9 lotus seeds. It should be counted in billions of years. When 9 seeds are formed, it is mature. Sumo asked. It is close to maturity, but not yet. Songhai shook his head. The three realms is a realm lotus at that stage. 9 coffins are like 9 lotus seeds? Sumo asked. The karma roulette is like a lotus? Songhai nodded. You can say that. And you and I are the souls of the lotus. In a vast universe, there are countless world lotuses. Songhai's voice was distant and deep. The netherworld, the space outside our world, is like a boundless ocean. There were countless world lotuses on the sea. However, their flowering periods are different. Some have just sprouted leaves, some have already bloomed and borne fruit, some have already grown lotus roots, and some have even fallen dormant. Among the many world lotuses, there are only a few that have lived for who knows how many billions of years and can look down on all others. There are many worlds, and they're all at different levels. If the world lotuses met, it would be a battle to the death, unless they were two fully matured realm lotuses. Otherwise, the world lotuses can become nourishment for each other. Devouring the other can shorten the flowering period of the other. It will evolve even faster. The Three Realms galaxy was devoured by another world. The world of the world lotus was called Izong. Am I right? Sumo narrowed her eyes. He could guess what Songhai wanted to say. Yes, Songhai nodded. However, the situation of the Three Realms is a bit special. Izong world is indeed a world lotus that evolved earlier than the Three Realms galaxy, but it doesn't seem to have the ability to completely devour the galaxy. So, the current situation is called fusion, because many of the cultivators of the galaxy have reincarnated in Izong world, and there were even many cultivators who directly transmigrated here by accident. It's not certain who will devour who. Transmigrators like you, Sumo said helplessly. That's right. Songhai nodded again. Green soul, and I did not reincarnate. We directly arrived at Izong world, and there should be others besides us. There must be, Sumo said. Now I know at least 3 people. Han Bingyi, Miaolong, and Murong Haiqing. They did not experience reincarnation. Then why do some reincarnate, and some transmigrate? Sumo asked. I don't know. Songhai shook his head. However, I know that a small pure land is just a drop in the ocean. Izong world is extremely vast. I don't know where the cultivators of the Three Realms are scattered. Perhaps they are all hibernating, waiting for you, or AMU. Today's galaxy should be a wasteland. And when that wasteland completely disappears, the 2 worlds will complete the fusion. Then, perhaps, a truly mature world lotus will be formed. Eternity, perhaps. Sumo noticed Songhai's choice of words. Because I'm also not sure. Songhai smiled bitterly. Songhai, if that's the case, why do you want to enter the mortal path forever? Although the galaxy is broken, we are not dead yet. We can make Izong world become a galaxy together. Sumo said. Hee hee. Songhai laughed again, but it was a helpless laugh. Netherworld, you seem to have forgotten to ask the most important question. What? Sumo was slightly stunned. You forgot to ask where so many world lotuses come from? Songhai's expression slightly darkened. Huh? Sumo's heart turned cold. Indeed, where did world lotuses come from? They could not be born out of thin air. Could it be that everything came from nothingness? If that was the case, there could not be countless world lotuses. Hee hee. Songhai laughed. Back then, I had a question. What kind of power allowed me to see white mountains, great seas, and world lotuses, but you did not? Within the 3 realms, there was once a power that surpassed you and me. Sumo's expression slightly changed, because in his heart, he and Songhai were the rulers of the 3 realms. Within the 3 realms, there was no power that could surpass them. But Sumo did not dare to think about it. World Lotus. World Lotus? Songhai looked at Sumo with a self-deprecating tone. Within vast universe, someone is planting lotuses. We are all ants on the lotuses, so even supremacies are not free. We just call ourselves supremacies. Within vast universe, someone was planting lotuses. Supremacies were also ants. Boom. These words were like a clap of thunder that resounded in Sumo's mind. The impact of these words was even greater than when Sumo had heard about the 3 realms shattering. Run. The former Sumo had shaken the 3 realms and laughed proudly at the world. But at this moment, his face turned slightly pale, because it was an absolute subversion of everything he had ever known. Songhai kept looking at Sumo, an indescribable emotion hidden in the depths of his eyes. Songhai did not speak, because he knew that Sumo needed a little time to calm down, just like he did in the past. Time seemed to stand still once more. But Songhai could wait. What was this bit of time? Songhai had actually caused the three realms to stand still for tens of thousands of years. He kept looking at Sumo. His heart had been fluctuating all this time. As for Sumo, he was silent. Whoosh! After an unknown period of time, Sumo let out a long breath of turbid air. His expression gradually softened and calmed down. Lotus cultivator, haha. Sumo sneered coldly. Songhai, is this the reason you entered the mortal Tao? Yes. Songhai nodded heavily. Yu Ming, in the three realms of the past, in the post-supremacies era, Mo Lang was the most stunning. But do you really think he can beat you and me? Songhai asked. No. Sumo did not hesitate. But, in the three realms there's still an AMU? Songhai smiled. Sumo nodded silently. Indeed, AMU was better than Mo Lang. AMU won everything. Heh. Songhai laughed bitterly. Yu Ming, why do you have to lie to yourself? Mu, it's actually me. Without me, where would there be AMU? The three realms is just a lotus. The lotus cultivator has always been watching us. And now, I don't want to be a puppet anymore. Songhai's voice resounded throughout the tomb. Chapter 540. The three realms is just a lotus. The person who planted the lotus has always been watching us. And now, I don't want to be a puppet anymore. Songhai's words exploded in Sumo's mind like thunder. The biggest obstacle in Sumo's heart was Songhai and AMU, not anyone else. Therefore, Songhai's words had the greatest impact on Sumo. At that moment, Sumo's eyes were slightly bloodshot. At the same time, his face was pale, and he clenched his fists. The little white pig on his shoulder showed fear in its eyes, because, in its memory, its master had never had such emotional fluctuations. In Sumo's Dansi, great waves surged, reaching tens of thousands of zhong. The Nine Dragons' immortal platform buzzed. On the immortal platform, the green-clothed incarnation of Sumo emitted endless green light. In all the lifetimes, that was definitely the moment when Sumo's emotions were the most unstable. However, Sumo still tried his best to control his emotions. He couldn't accept Songhai's choice. He would rather Songhai stood on the opposite side, and they fought for each other's beliefs, than to let Songhai enter the mortal Tao disheartenedly. That way, Sumo would feel lonely and even a little hopeless. Songhai still looked at Sumo and didn't speak. At this moment, only he understood Sumo's mentality best, so he still had to give Sumo a buffer time. Songhai's expression was very calm. After an unknown period of time, Sumo slowly raised his head and said in a low voice, Songhai, you've entered the mortal Tao, right? Yes. Songhai nodded slowly. This divine sense is my last existence. Green Soul and I have entered the mortal Tao. We will not cultivate anymore, and we will not ascend to the immortal realm again. Huh. Sumo looked at Songhai and said, You're lying to me. That's not the Songhai I know. Songhai smiled helplessly and guiltily. Nether, Green Soul didn't even leave behind a divine sense. I didn't lie to you. Mortal Tao, very good. After cultivating for a long time, he had abandoned everything else. Live a life of a real mortal. Very good. There was a hint of hope and joy in Songhai's tone. Fan, what's so good about it? Sumo sneered. Even a sovereign is an ant on a lotus. Then a mortal can't even be compared to an ant. Back then, Mo Lang cultivated the three lives art of immortality, demon, and mortal. But in the end, he was still not an immortal. Mortals are only the means and perfection of becoming immortals. But you don't need to. You and I are a kind of perfection. I didn't do it for perfection. Blue Sea shook his head. I did it for freedom. For the sake of freedom? Sumo laughed coldly without end. Immortals aren't free, but mortals are free. Aren't mortals just puppets? Letting go of everything is nothing more than life to death. Blue Sea faintly smiled. A supreme can easily live for 10,000 years, but a mortal can only live for 100 years. But in essence, it's all a kind of passing. Getting rid of my mortal body also means getting rid of all my sufferings. Mortal, don't bother about the heavens. Just ask about your 3 meals. You don't even have the qualifications to be a puppet. What's it to talk about being a puppet? You? Sumo looked at Blue Sea, simply speechless. Netherworld, you and I will always be right and wrong. Blue Sea smiled and said, our choices seem to be forever different. Sumo was silent. He just stared at Blue Sea. He seemed to want to see something. But Blue Sea's expression was calm. He would never understand Blue Sea's choice, just like in the past. Blue Sea pursued eternal life. He chose reincarnation. They had indeed never been on the same path. If their paths were different, what was scheming? But they just stood here, strangely. Fine, Sumo said coldly. He didn't say anything, or perhaps he didn't want to say anything. Blue Sea smiled. Then, Blue Sea looked around the entire tomb. At this time, Sumo also had the opportunity to follow Blue Sea's gaze and carefully look at this strange tomb. At the center of the tomb was where Blue Sea stood. Under his feet was a small round platform. It was a round platform made of polished black stone. Sumo had seen that kind of black stone before. However, the piece under Blue Sea's feet seemed to be darker and brighter than the black stones he had seen before. Looking from the inside, the tomb's diameter was about 10 feet. This was much smaller than the core tomb seen from the outside. There were a total of 9 tunnel entrances in the surroundings. Sumo knew that they corresponded to the 9 Dao gates. On the tomb's walls, there were all kinds of runes. Each rune had the power to decide a person's life and death. This tomb looked a little empty. There was no coffin, no burial goods. At that moment, Sumo couldn't help frowning. Blue Sea, since you and Green Soul have already decided to enter the mortal world, why build this tomb here? Are you pretending to be mysterious? Sumo said disdainfully. The immortal fate has yet to be fulfilled. This tomb is left for the fated person. Blue Sea said. Sumo said nothing coldly. Netherworld, how about you follow me into the mortal world? Blue Sea laughed mockingly. Sumo looked at Blue Sea and said slowly, Blue Sea, you're crazy. I'm not you. Oh, Blue Sea didn't care. That's good. I'll leave everything here to you. What? Sumo raised her eyebrows. The power of the 3 realms. Blue Sea's expression turned slightly serious. Netherworld, don't you want to know? Everything from the Star River era, in the round platform under my feet. You may get the answer. Huh? Sumo looked at the black round platform under Blue Sea's feet. Her eyes narrowed. The karma roulette was broken by AMU back then. We no longer have the power to restore it, because we're not lotus cultivators. However, I collected some of its fragments in the Star River and condensed them into a wheel. Blue Sea's gaze swept across Sumo. There are already some fragments in your body, but those are from the 3 realms era. And under my feet, it may restore your memories of the Star River era. Back then, you used the body of Xiao Luo to die in battle for the Star River. Blue Sea, I want to ask, what were you doing back then? Also, where are the other supremacies? The demon boy? They're all very powerful. Sumo interrupted Blue Sea. Powerful? Blue Sea shook his head. Strength is always relative. Within the 3 realms, the strongest will always be you and me, because we possess the most original power of the 3 realms. However, it can't resist the power of Izong, because Izong's realm lotus surpasses the Star River's realm lotus. That's not a battle of strength of the same level. Don't you remember sealing the devil flower back then? In the end, it wasn't us who sealed it, but the power of Izong brought Bailey water. In front of the power of another world, the supremacies back then probably couldn't even take a single step. The demon boy is a genius. If he wants to protect the people around him and reincarnate, his power is probably greater than ascending to the heavens. Even someone as powerful as Azure and White Light, I think they won't be able to hold on for long. The power of the Realm Lotus fusion far surpasses our imagination. It's a crushing power. Blue Sea's tone was low. Sumo listened with a frown. He believed Blue Sea's words, because he once heard Yu Wuji say that Azure and White Light really was destroyed in an instant. In the 3 Realms era, Qing Mozi and Xing Fei were existences who could even kill supremacies. They were sky coffins. But so what? Therefore, Blue Sea paused, and then an indescribable smile appeared on his face. The night before the Star River shattered, Green Soul and I drank for an entire night on planet Distant Dream. Drunk and dreaming. At that moment, Blue Sea smiled, and a tear appeared in his eye. Blue Sea's pain was something even the netherworld couldn't understand. Chapter 541. They drank themselves into oblivion for the entire night. Sumo looked at Songhai in a daze. There was pain in his eyes, and even a trace of despair. Why did Songhai become like this? His family was destroyed. Why was he drunk? Shouldn't he fight to the death? Yu Ming, the only way to win Yizong is within Yizong. Songhai regained his composure. He didn't care about Sumo's attitude towards him, and continued to speak. If you want to restore the galaxy, reaching your previous realm is just a foundation. What realm is above the supremacy realm? Sumo asked, suppressing his emotions. According to Yizong, its reincarnation stages are divided into the 5 Blight realm, 1 life reincarnation, and the supremacy realm. They correspond to the 5 Blight realm, the eternal realm, and the supremacy realm in the 3 realms. It's pretty much the same. Of course, the reincarnators of the Yizong realm don't have the 5 Blight realm. 1 life reincarnation is divided into 9 levels. Similarly, the supremacy realm is also divided into 9 levels. Using you and me as an example, we should be at the peak of the 9th level of the supremacy realm, the realm of 1 step into the Lotus realm. 1 step into the Lotus realm? Sumo had never heard of this before. The Lotus transformation realm is the realm above the rebirth realm. The supremacy realm you're asking about has a title in the Yizong realm. They are collectively called Lotus Warriors. Lotus Warriors? Sumo frowned. That's right. Songhai nodded. In theory, any Lotus Warrior is stronger than you and me. They are the so-called supremacy realm. As for the Lotus transformation realm, I'm not sure how many levels there are. What realm is AMU? Sumo asked again. Perhaps the lowest level of Lotus Warriors. Songhai shook his head. After the war, I didn't see MU either. We can't communicate and merge through the 2 realms. But in the Yizong realm, I can't feel any of his presence. Perhaps choosing to ship an immeasurable ferry was a mistake. After all, we didn't know where that ship was heading. What kind of place are the White Mountains and the Great Sea? Sumo asked. I've also seen such a scene. I don't know. Songhai shook his head. That White Mountain seems to be forever in the sea. The sea was full of lotus flowers. If every single one of them is a world lotus, then the White Mountain would be unimaginable. Songhai. Sumo looked at Songhai with a complicated expression. Tell me, how do you know all this? Why didn't I know anything about this? In fact, this was a big question in Sumo's mind. He believed everything Songhai said. However, he was essentially no different from Songhai. Why did the information seem to be unequal? Could it be because he had reincarnated? As a result, he missed out on a lot of things. Hee hee. Blue Sea chuckled. Netherworld, perhaps it is because I am the obverse side of the wheel. Moreover, I transmigrated here and did not experience reincarnation. You should know that it has been millions of years since the Milky Way shattered. Many things have happened during this time. More importantly, there's a power that surpasses you and I. It seems to be controlling me. To be more precise, it should be affecting me. Songhai frowned. It's just like when I saw the scene outside the 3 realms. Who does that power belong to? Sumo asked. I don't know. Songhai said. However, it is a power that belongs to the 3 realms. It's just that you and I do not know about that power. That feeling is very bad. Puppet feeling? Sumo asked with a frown. Hee hee. Songhai nodded. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why I ultimately returned to the mortal Tao. At the mention of returning to the mortal Tao, Sumo instantly lowered his head in silence. Netherworld, I have made my decision. Songhai sighed. Now, I have transferred all the pressure to you. You can make your own choice. My choice remains unchanged. Sumo looked up at Songhai, his expression calm. Hee hee. All right. Songhai laughed helplessly. I wish you success. Everything in this tomb will be left to you. It should be useful to you. With that said, Songhai's divine will suddenly faded. Songhai. Sumo's expression changed. This was Songhai's final divine will. Entering the mortal Tao meant that Songhai would not have any so-called awakening. He had cut off everything. He only wanted to live another life. Netherworld, although our paths are different, I am willing to contribute my final strength to you. If you want to restore the three realms and the Star River, there's no need to think about me. Songhai smiled. That smile was like an elder brother watching his younger brother grow up. Songhai. Sumo felt as if a fishbone was stuck in her throat. She did not know what to say. Songhai's divine will became fainter and fainter, gradually turning into a wisp of smoke. Netherworld, farewell. Those were Songhai's final words. The moment Songhai's divine will completely disappeared, Sumo seemed to lose all strength. Bang! Sumo directly knelt on the ground. In such a large tomb, he was the only one left. It seemed even more empty. That kind of loneliness only Sumo could understand. It was not that he was the only one left in the tomb, but he felt as if he was the only one left in all the worlds. The feeling of loneliness filled Sumo's entire soul. It was a kind of loneliness and pain that he had never felt before, because in the past, no matter what, he always thought that Songhai was with him. That kind of companionship lasted for tens of thousands of years. However, it was different this time. Songhai was truly going to disappear. That kind of feeling was like a mortal facing his loved one who had died forever. No matter how much pain you felt, that person could not return. Talk to him, face him wholeheartedly. Everything was impossible. Sumo knelt in the tomb for an unknown amount of time. There seemed to be tears in his eyes, but it also seemed like the tears had long dried up. Songhai! Songhai! Sumo muttered in confusion, using time to resolve the pain. Sumo was in a state of weightlessness. And at this time, in a corner of the tomb, there were two special auras that were quietly dispersing. In fact, with Sumo's current realm, he could not sense their existence at all. The two voices seemed to be talking in another space-time. Songhai, why didn't you tell him the whole truth? It was a woman's voice. Netherworld, he must be in great pain. Songhai's voice. I told him the whole truth. But the woman wanted to say something, but hesitated. Netherworld can definitely do everything well. His tenacity is greater than mine, because his suffering is greater than mine. Moreover, his body seems to have the aura of a Law Emperor. A Law Emperor will guide him. The Galaxy Realm Lotus will not be so easily purified and fused. Songhai let out a long sigh. As for you and me, isn't it better to enter the mortal world? The woman let out a long sigh. Songhai, why do you have to deceive yourself and others? You are not alone. AMU will definitely not enter the mortal world. Songhai laughed. Sometimes deceiving yourself is also good. AI. The woman let out a bitter and helpless sigh and did not speak again. And those two auras left the tomb, completely disappearing from the Pure Land world. There was no sound. They seemed to have never been here. Chapter 542. Time flew by. Yu Wuji and the others had stayed outside the tomb for 7 days and 7 nights. This period of time was not considered long for cultivators of their level. It was very quiet inside and outside the tomb. It was peaceful inside the Star Soul Valley. The cultivators of the Sannan clan hadn't left yet. They sat cross-legged 20 zhang away from the tomb, quietly observing the changes. Guyu's complexion had completely improved. At this time, the 3 guests had just arrived. However, their arrival had already become a meaningless matter. Before, they were quite hostile to Sumo. But after listening to everything Chu Fei said, they couldn't help but admire her. Ancient Shu cultivators only submitted to the truly brave, wise, benevolent, and strong. And Sumo seemed to have all of them. Everyone was waiting. They were waiting for Sumo, and they were also waiting for a real result. What exactly was inside this tomb? At the same time, they were a little worried. But there was no change between dawn and dusk. Perhaps this was a good sign. At this time, inside the tomb, Sumo was already sitting cross-legged on the black round platform, her eyes slightly closed. Sumo had already calmed down. There were many things in this world that one had to learn to accept no matter what. Moreover, Sumo's heart was incomparably powerful. Sumo couldn't understand the vast sea entering the mortal realm, but Sumo wouldn't sink too deep into it. Vast sea was vast sea, and Sumo was Sumo. Some roads had to be walked alone, and some things had to be done alone. Moreover, vast sea had left real treasures for Sumo. That black round platform was the miniature of a karma wheel. The moment Sumo stepped onto the wheel, he felt a resonance from his soul. Buzz, on the Nine Dragons' immortal platform, light shone brightly. Originally, 2/3 of the Nine Dragons' immortal platform was covered by black and gray fragments. Those fragments were attached to Sumo's memories. But now, it was the remaining 1/3 of the platform that shone brightly. Sumo's memory had never been complete. Previously, he had completed 2 memory recoveries, but he had no memory of everything that had happened in the Galaxy era. The moment he stepped onto the black round platform, he was in a trance. Time seemed to be flowing backward. The 7-colored radiance was like a rainbow. It rose above the black platform and rose into the depths of Sumo's soul at the same time. Sumo fell into a strange state. The colorful fragments streaked past Sumo's body like a meteor shower. Sumo's soul was flying into another space and time. It was a 5-colored star. Looking down from the void, one could see the mountains and rivers. The scenery was absolutely beautiful. However, Sumo felt that she had landed near an ancient village. Sumo was both unfamiliar and familiar with that village. That was because there was actually a large river outside the village. In the village, many old modeled houses were scattered here and there. Outside the village was a ferry port, where 3 enormous ancient ships were docked. Each ancient ship was nearly 100 zhang long and nearly 20 zhang wide. On the deck, there was an ancient wooden building, but it had also been covered in dust for many years. There were no masts, no oars. It was unknown what it was powered by. The dark gray hull, made of unknown materials, was covered in too much dust. This is Forgetful River, Immortal Town. Sumo was slightly shocked. Why was he here? However, he did not see Immortal Old Man or Little Six. Immortal Town was still as quiet as before, as if everyone was still asleep. At that moment, Sumo could not tell which era he had returned to in Immortal Town. However, in an instant, everything in front of him changed greatly. Who? The wind swept past, bringing with it layers of waves. Looking again, those immortal boats were instantly eroded and scattered with the wind. Everything in Immortal Town was changing. The sky, the river, everything was changing. The never-ending river of forgetfulness seemed to have transformed into a blue ocean. The once lifeless Immortal Town had almost completely disappeared. In its place was an extremely beautiful village. Fragrance. A faint but endless fragrance. That fragrance caused Sumo's heart to tremble, because that was the fragrance he was most familiar with, the fragrance of plum blossoms. Unknowingly, the entire village was covered in plum blossoms. Wua, Sumo murmured in his heart. Xiao Luo. At this moment, a woman slowly walked out of the village. Dressed in green, she was elegant and refined, her cheeks fragrant, her eyes moving. Between her eyebrows, there was a plum blossom mark. When she raised her hand, she was cold and proud. Plum blossom spirit, Wu. A woman was always gentle in front of the man she loved. Wu was even more so. Xiao Luo, why are you here? I have been looking for you for a while. Wu walked over and coquettishly held Xiao Luo's arm, her head gently leaning on Sumo's shoulder, her face revealing a smile. At that moment, Sumo's soul shook, because that feeling was similarly unfamiliar, yet familiar. After who knew how many years, Sumo had not felt that kind of feeling. Wu-Er's hair was like a black waterfall, emitting a fragrance. I have finished the plum blossom house, Wu-Er said with a smile. I was looking for you to take a look. Wu. Sumo's voice was slightly trembling. Then, he gently hugged Wu-Er and pulled her into his arms. Sumo closed his eyes. At that moment, he felt especially at ease. HM? Wu was slightly surprised. Of course, this was not the first time Xiao Luo hugged her. However, her cheeks still blushed a little. This time, she felt a little different from the hug. Xiao Luo, what's wrong? Wu Er asked sweetly. Nothing. You have worked hard. Sumo hugged Wu Er and smiled emotionally. Not at all. Wu Er shook her head. For you, nothing is hard. The Milky Way is so beautiful. The immortal planet is even more beautiful. So our home must be beautiful too. Let's go. Wu Er left Sumo's embrace and pulled Sumo's hand. Sumo followed Wu Er in a trance. Wu's hand and Mu Jinghong's hand were almost exactly the same. Everything was real, yet unreal. A winding path was filled with the fragrance of flowers on both sides. That ancient village seemed to have only one family. It was indeed a quiet place. In the distance, Sumo heard the sound of water and saw an exquisite two-story bamboo building. Outside the bamboo building, there were 2 towering plum trees. Their branches and leaves covered them like a pavilion. On the side, there was a meandering stream of water and a wooden bridge across the water. Everything was simple and natural without losing its charm. And beside the stream of water, there were 4 crooked words engraved on a large green stone. Plum Blossom House. Sumo laughed involuntarily. Wu Er, why did you write such ugly words? Wu Er smiled slyly. Karma is broken. The 3 realms are immortal. Everything for us has just begun. So, those 4 words were not engraved with spells, but with a mortal artifact. Xiao Luo, do you like it here? Yes. Sumo nodded. Wu Er snuggled into Sumo's embrace and said gently, It's good that you like it. Xiaolang, we'll live here from now on. The Milky Way is brilliant, and we can live forever. Here, we'll be like a pair of ordinary men and women, living for thousands of years, okay? Ordinary men and women? Sumo's thoughts paused, but another joyful voice teased on his behalf. Why? Are you going to give birth to a bunch of children? In that instant, Plum Blossom 5 Er's face was full of shyness, but she bit her lower lip. Xiaolang, if you want, I can do it. If the Milky Way was immortal, they would never part. Outside the ancient village, the waves of the sea rose and fell. Chapter 543. Wah, wah. A baby's cry broke the tranquility of the Plum Blossom House. The plum tree was fragrant, and the stream was rippling. Under a plum tree in the house, there was a ball of green light. Plum Blossom Wu Er was under the plum tree, sweating and exhausted. She was holding the ball of green light in her arms. Inside the ball of green light, there was a chubby baby boy. The little guy's eyes were closed, but he was making threatening gestures, his legs kicking. Xiaolang, what should we name him? Wu Er asked. How about Huang? Xiao Luo asked. Huang. Wu Er smiled. Tai Huang, Murong Huang. Let's name him Huang, as a memento of the past. It's a good word. Yeah. Xiao Luo hugged Wu Er lovingly, watching the little guy stop making threatening gestures and fall asleep. Xiao Huang. Huang Er. That was Xiao Luo and Wu Er's child. Seeing this, Sumo's heart tightened, because he remembered the words on the 7th page of the Dust Civ Sutra. Huang has been gone for 7 days, and there is no news from him? Missing him. Those are the words on the Dust Civ Sutra. Now it seemed that it was left by Xiao Luo. Xiao Huang was nowhere to be found. Time flew by, and no one knew when it would come or go. In a trance, Sumo felt as if he had become Xiao Luo one moment and was in the middle of it. The next moment, he became Sumo and was uninvolved. What he had seen and experienced was everything in the galaxy era. On the immortal star, everything was peaceful. Happiness was better than sadness. Sumo understood that those were the happiest days of his life. Eternal life. In those hundreds of years, it seemed to have come true. On the immortal star, there were many cultivators of the 3 realms. Demon Burial Sect, Shura Realm, Wood Clan of the Heaven Continent, and so on. Seeing everything busy, Sumo understood that many things had been rearranged in the galaxy era. Among the cultivators of the galaxy era, only the original immortals, the cultivators above the eternal realm, and the people close to them still had complete memories of the past. Many other cultivators seemed to have drunk Meng Po's soup and could hardly remember the past. That mortal didn't know that the three realms had become the Milky Way, because to them, it was summer bugs talking about ice. They couldn't even touch the effects of that change. Mortals could really get rid of a mortal pain. At that moment, Sumo was at a loss. It seemed that Songhai was right. Xiao Huang grew up day by day. However, Xiao Luo and Wu Er didn't age at all. Life cultivation. Later on, other than its core area, the entire ancient village began to expand outwards. Gradually, after an unknown period of time, this place became an immortal town, Plum Blossom Town. Many cultivators had gathered in the town. It was just that almost no one knew that Xiao Luo and Wu Er were supreme almighties. They lived in a small town, equal and free. Xiao Huang was a genius. The speed of his cultivation was like 1,000 miles a day. As a descendant of the demon race and the human race, he had all the advantages of Xiao Luo and Wu Er. Thus, he began to travel. Naturally, Xiao Luo would not restrict him. After all, he was Xiao Luo's son. In the galaxy, he could visit many of Xiao Luo's old places. Many stars, those top cultivators who didn't know the Demon King. The days were peaceful and fulfilling. At this moment, in Sumo's eyes, everything in the galaxy was beautiful. Peace, peace, everything was thriving. Moreover, everything in the galaxy was eternal. Sumo often heard the praise of the god of creation, Amu, from the mouths of many cultivators. In the galaxy, everything about Amu had become a beautiful legend, and it was even interpreted into many versions of the story. Every version of the story made Sumo smile knowingly. Sumo found all of this interesting. In fact, he would rather be like this in the galaxy forever. In fact, the awakening of this memory made Sumo a little intoxicated. If everything was a dream, he didn't want to wake up. However, that was wishful thinking. The crisis, no one knew when it started, almost without any warning. Time, in the galaxy era, was a very vague concept. Eternal life had long been deeply rooted in people's hearts. Therefore, in the beginning, almost no cultivators realized that something was wrong with the galaxy. When the three realms became the galaxy, no one knew where it ended. Therefore, when the edge of the galaxy was swallowed, it didn't attract much attention. After a long period of peace, even the supreme venerables seemed to have forgotten about everything. Plus, everything happened without a sound. It was as if a corner of a huge sand table had been inadvertently erased, and no one had noticed. The galaxy was too big, and its area was 100 times the size of the original three realms. Many cultivators were scattered on many stars. Xiao Luo knew that there was something wrong with the galaxy, because it was a rumor in Plumflower Town. However, the rumor was quickly confirmed. Therefore, that day Xiao Luo wrote, "There's something wrong with the galaxy. All the stars are shaking." In the 7 days before that, to confirm everything, Xiao Huang had already rushed to other stars. After that, Xiao Luo never saw Xiao Huang again. At that time, Xiao Huang was already at the peak of the 9th level of the original immortal realm, just one step away from the eternal realm. Sumo couldn't be sure if Xiao Huang would reincarnate. One step away might be an eternal farewell. A few days later, the immortal planet started to move. For the galaxy, which was measured in tens of thousands of years, it was just the blink of an eye. Within the galaxy, many stars were said to have fallen. Xiao Luo and Wu Er had already lost contact with some of the old powerhouses of the three realms. Rumor had it that Zio, Nine Wheels, and Heaven Cultivation were all destroyed. One should know that on Nine Wheels lived Heavenly Evil and Water Demon. On Heaven Cultivation Planet, there were Demon Venerables, Hu Qing, Jade Fire, and even Xiantian and Xingchun. How could Heaven Cultivation Planet be destroyed? The disaster of the apocalypse engulfed the entire galaxy. Its speed and power were far beyond Xiao Luo and Wu Er's imagination. However, they didn't know what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on. Finally, Xiao Luo spared no effort and used the Underworld Lord spell. He looked at the entire galaxy. At that moment, Xiao Luo almost couldn't believe his eyes. Su Mo could also clearly see that the Star River had become a world riddled with holes, and that blood was seeping out of it. That world was collapsing and being destroyed. That scene shocked Xiao Luo greatly, because he couldn't believe it. How could this be? Blood-red roses were everywhere in the Milky Way. They were like uncontrollable weeds, spreading outwards. The devil's flowers. However, at that moment, Xiao Luo understood. Those devil's flowers weren't devouring everything in the galaxy. Instead, they were resisting a strange foreign power. That power couldn't be seen at all. However, the devil's flowers would instantly turn into blood in front of it. The devil's flower was the flower of the three realms. It was protecting the three realms instinctively, wave after wave, like moths flying into a flame. However, it couldn't stop that power at all. The power of the realm lotus. At that moment, Sumo understood. However, the old Xiao Luo didn't know. During the calamity of the apocalypse, the realm lotus bloomed. Chapter 544. There were many things in the infinite world that required the courage to face death without any regard for their own safety. Knowing that it was impossible, yet doing it, not fearing death and fighting to the death, that was determination. Even the devil flower knew how to protect the galaxy, let alone Xiao Luo. The sea of stars was vast and mighty, but there was no more zither music. The vast sea was silent, and Willow Town was indistinct. Xiao Luo didn't know how Demon Sovereign, Song Hai, Mo Lang, and the others were doing, because there was no news. At this moment, the entire galaxy seemed to have been divided into countless regions. They were severed by a strange power. Even if the celestial river cultivators wanted to unite together, it would be impossible. Each star could only fight their own battles. Xiao Luo's eyes and heart were bleeding as he observed everything in the Star River. The Xing River was an existence he had fought for countless years. Eternal life now was very good. Although this was the path AMU had chosen for the three realms, there was nothing wrong with it. For millions of years, Xiao Luo enjoyed such a life. However, everything was about to end. Tens of thousands of stars were burnt to ashes, and blood dyed the starry sky red. Many of the stars around the immortal star began to shatter. Within the Star River world, almost all immortal realm cultivators could see the faint blood-red light in the void. Doomsday was approaching. Sadly, the Star River cultivators did not know the cause of all this. Although they could feel a strange power, they didn't see any enemies. It didn't seem to be a war, but an invisible natural disaster. However, Xiao Luo didn't think so, because he knew the Milky Way better than any other cultivator. The Milky Way originated from the three realms. The three realms originated from the roulette, and Xiao Luo was born from the roulette. Whether it was the three realms or the Milky Way, it was a perfect existence. In the three realms, one could reincarnate and live forever. However, without any external forces, the three realms galaxy would never truly be destroyed. The destruction of the Milky Way was completely different from the destruction of the three realms by the Dark Lord in the past. External force. Xiao Luo understood this very well. Moreover, Xiao Luo felt that this external force was somewhat familiar. However, he could not recall when he had seen that kind of power before. But now, Sumo knew that it was a hidden power. Late at night, Plum Blossom House, under the plum tree. Wu were nestled in Xiao Luo's arms with a sad expression. They had been together for millions of years, and that was long enough. However, it was still not enough. Who would spend too much time with the person they loved? Moreover, Wu Air understood that such days were coming to an end. Once, the night of the immortal star was mysterious and illusory. In the night sky, there were many colorful stars, beautiful beyond words. Many nights, Xiao Luo and Wu Air snuggled together and enjoyed the moonlight. However, the night sky of the immortal star had turned completely red. Looking up, the starry sky was like blood, and it was getting darker by the day. Xiaolang, are you really going to fight? Wu Air asked. Yes. Xiao Luo didn't hesitate. The three realms is mine. The Milky Way is also mine. AMU is not in the galaxy. Even if I die in battle, I can't just watch the galaxy die like this. But we don't know who the enemy is. Wu Er had no intention of stopping Xiao Luo. She just wanted to clarify everything. The enemy's strength far surpasses our imagination, said Xiao Luo. No matter who the enemy is, we will not be able to defeat them. Since they want the Milky Way to be destroyed, then I'll let the Milky Way be reborn. You can let the Milky Way be reborn? Wu Er looked at Xiao Luo in a daze. Although she was Xiao Luo's wife, she couldn't understand all of Xiao Luo's secrets. After all, Xiao Luo and the Dark Sovereign were essentially one entity. Unfortunately, AMU isn't here. Otherwise, he and I could try to seal the Milky Way. Xiao Luo didn't answer Wu Er's question. Instead, he let out a long sigh. What about now? Wu Er asked again. Fight to the death, Xiao Luo said in a low voice. When Wu Er heard this, she didn't say anything. She just hugged Tower Master Xiao Luo tightly. She knew that her man was going to die. That was a battle to the death. His chances of winning were slim. However, Wu Er wouldn't stop him. Because he was Xiao Luo. He was the Demon King. He was even the reverse side of the karma roulette. The three realms and the Milky Way were supposed to be on his back. He had to shoulder everything. He was duty-bound. Hence, Wu Er hugged Xiao Luo for an entire night. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to say anything. Since she couldn't change anything, leaning on her lover's shoulder and cherishing the last moments was the best choice. That night, they were like eternal statues. That was the last night they were together. Sumo felt a stabbing pain in her heart. All of her memories were recovering bit by bit. The next morning, Xiao Luo didn't say anything more to Wu Er. He had said what he needed to say. Xiao Luo was dressed in a black robe. His long hair fluttered in the wind. His beautiful and bewitching face was filled with unswerving determination. He looked at the blood-red sky. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. After millions of years, Xiao Luo had already become a venerable. However, for tens of thousands of years, he almost didn't make a move. Because there was no need. Wu Er, take care. Xiao Luo didn't even turn his head. He directly soared into the sky. He was still the same person. The persevering Xiao Luo. The wise Muro. The insufferably arrogant Dark Lord. Wu Er stayed in the Plum Blossom house. She didn't go out. She looked at Xiao Luo's back. Tears rolled down her eyes. She murmured as if she was talking about the vow from millions of years ago. Xiao Luo, I will wait for you in the reincarnation cycle. However, she added another sentence in her heart. If there is reincarnation, no one knows the future of the apocalypse of the galaxy. The Demon King appeared. He instantly emitted endless pressure. The entire star area of the immortal star was shaken. Hua! In the galaxy, Xiao Luo stood proudly. Instantly, with him as the center, his power spread out like a tide. The blood-red light of the surrounding stars suddenly disappeared. At that moment, it was like the blazing sun chasing away the dark clouds. Xiao Luo's power directly affected the galaxy. The stars that were about to shatter were the first to stabilize. Many of the stars were like withered plants that immediately regained vitality. Xiao Luo was like the god of the galaxy. He seemed to be burning. A roulette-like existence started to form under his feet. He formed a seal with his hands. It was a spell that only Vast Ocean and Hades could use. Xiao Luo wanted to recall the power of the 9 coffins to form another roulette. Xiao Luo, Demon King, Dark Sovereign, the entire galaxy could actually feel Xiao Luo's call and his power of origin. It was something that the other supremacies and almighties couldn't do. Their power had long been sealed and dissolved by the power of the other world. But Xiao Luo's power didn't. However, the power of the karma roulette was too scattered. Moreover, after millions of years of evolution, there were almost no traces of it. Xiao Luo tried his best to sense everything. A shadow had already formed under his feet. At that moment, the space he was in was like a black hole in the galaxy. That shadow wasn't the karma roulette, but it was better than nothing. Xiao Luo needed to spin the roulette to change everything. At that moment, if AMU was here, they had a 70 to 80% chance of changing everything. Unfortunately, he was the only one at the moment. Xiao Luo's appearance was the last ray of light before the galaxy shattered. Unfortunately, it was only a temporary light. A voice finally appeared in the galaxy. However, only Xiao Luo could hear it. Lotus Soul, why are you resisting so stubbornly? The purification cannot be stopped. Chapter 545. Lotus Soul? At that moment, Xiao Luo's eyes were blank. Who was the Lotus Soul? Sumo, who recovered his memory, was shocked. It turned out that he had heard about the Lotus Soul before. Songhai was not the first person to mention the Lotus Soul. He and Songhai, or Amu, were the Lotus Souls of the Galaxy Realm Lotus. Who? Xiao Luo shouted. His aura spread out, but he could not sense the other party's existence. The person who spoke seemed to be formless, and without aura. You can't see me. It was a man's voice. His voice was calm, but there was extreme indifference in the calmness, because I'm much higher than you. You don't even have the qualifications to see me. Those who know me call me heartless. He. Xiao Luo could not help but sneer. Heartless? What an interesting name. However, I want to say, if I don't even have the qualifications to see you, then why are you talking to me? Oh, Heartless' voice paused slightly. God will not talk to ants, especially when I'm about to kill them. Xiao Luo's voice was extremely calm. Because I am the god of the three realms galaxy. Persuasion means fear and a price. Endless black and red light flashed in Xiao Luo's eyes. That was the gaze of the former Nether Sovereign. You can kill me, you can destroy the galaxy, but you must pay a great price. Otherwise, why would you speak? Xiao Luo's words could be said to be piercing. He. Heartless also laughed. Although the laughter was still cold, he had to admire Xiao Luo's judgment. As expected of the Lotus Soul, the world Lotus Soul of the galaxy is indeed not ordinary. Both of you are very interesting. Heartless sighed, but no matter what, you can't stop the purification of the galaxy. You? At that time, Xiao Luo did not pay much attention to Heartless' words, but now Sumo's heart was moved. You? Was Heartless referring to Songhai or AMU? I have already sealed one. He can't return to the galaxy world. The Heartless voice sounded again. You're right. I don't want to use up too much energy on you. So, I hope you won't struggle. After the Milky Way shatters, I can bestow upon you the title of Venerable Xiazang. Sealed one? He couldn't go back to the Xing River world. Sumo understood. Why didn't AMU appear when the three realms shattered? AMU had been sealed. Songhai's conjecture was right. AMU hadn't appeared all this time because he had no choice. AMU was above the Venerable Realm. However, it was actually sealed. This Wu Qing was indeed much higher than them. His words were not arrogant. Ha ha ha. Xiao Luo shook his head and laughed coldly. Heartless, so what if you sealed AMU? I am even more unwilling for others to bestow upon me the title of Venerable One. You are not even as good as him. Heartless said. So what if I'm not as good as him? Xiao Luo looked around. Many stars rose and fell in the void. It doesn't matter if I'm not as good as AMU. What's important is that I am like him, willing to fight to the death for the Milky Way. Even to the death. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. So what? An ant trying to shake a tree. So what? Xiao Luo's aura began to rise rapidly. His long hair and black robes fluttered wildly. The karmic will beneath his feet seemed to solidify a bit, then dissipated in an instant. He really couldn't recall the karmic wheel. However, none of this could change Xiao Luo's determination to fight for the Milky Way. At that moment, Xiao Luo didn't care about the results. At that moment, Xiao Luo didn't care about reincarnation. He didn't think about anything. He only wanted to fight to the death for the Milky Way. To die for the Milky Way, to die without regrets, to die with honor. At that moment, the light on Xiao Luo's body began to rise. His entire being, body, and soul began to burn once more. At that moment, he really was like an exploding sun. I am Xiao Luo. I am the Demon King. I am Morong. I am the Dark Lord. Xiao Luo's voice was like an oracle, resounding in every corner of the Milky Way, every inch of the stars. Tell my people, I am a man of the three realms in life, and a soul of the Milky Way in death. Today, I will sacrifice myself for the three realms and the Milky Way. I would rather be a broken jade than an intact tile. Every blade of grass and every tree will burn with me. Whoosh, whoosh, Xiao Luo's light and voice formed a huge storm in the Milky Way. That storm swept across the entire Milky Way. A large amount of blood mist dissipated. Xiao Luo, Demon King, thousands of cultivators of the Milky Way screamed at the top of their lungs. For many cultivators of the Milky Way, Xiao Luo was a legendary existence like the god of creation. At that moment, even if it was the final radiance of the Milky Way, a desperate attack was worth it. Live as a man of the three realms, and die as a soul of the Milky Way. Better be a broken jade than an intact tile. Every blade of grass and every tree will burn with me. Those words became the last beliefs of the cultivators of the Milky Way. Countless cultivators turned into mist of blood under the power of the other world. However, they did not cry out in pain. Xiao Lang, on the immortal planet, in the plum blossom hut, the plum blossom fairy, Wu Er, knelt under the plum tree and sobbed. Her Xiao Lang had completely burned himself out. Passage, there were still honorable realm cultivators hiding in the three realms. Before this, they were completely suppressed by the power of the other world, because his source energy was simply unable to resist it. Even the powerful demon flower was like a moth flying into a flame. Only Xiao Luo could. Whoosh! At that moment, the honorable realm cultivators finally saw passage. In other words, the power that sealed the Milky Way had a flaw. Forbidden map. On a planet, a middle-aged man in a black outfit performed a hand seal. The invincible forbidden map could finally be used. Unfortunately, he could only teleport the people around him. That was because everything happened in an instant. Mo Lang. The woman's cry was instantly drowned out by the power of the forbidden map and the power of the other world. No one knew if Mo Lang had traveled to another world. On the other side of the planet, a green-white light flashed. Azure Demon turned around and sent a beam of green light straight into Qiaomu's forehead. That was the last thing he could leave for her. Then, the green-white light instantly collapsed. The same thing happened on a few other planets in the Milky Way. Unfortunately, there were not many people who could seize that moment. The honorable realm still had one breath left. The immortal realm turned into ashes. However, that was the last thing Xiao Luo could do for the Milky Way. Purify. The heartless voice resounded across the entire Milky Way, instantly suppressing Xiao Luo's last words. His heart was shaken. That was because he saw the flaw. But it had already happened. The purification of the three realms was destined to be incomplete. Boom! Crack! The stars exploded. At that moment, the three realms and the Milky Way seemed to be ignited with endless fireworks. The light was dazzling, and the death was gorgeous. Inside the tomb, Sumo watched everything in a daze. Tears rolled down from his eyes. The person he loved, the Milky Way he loved, everything he loved was gone. And Sumo had completely awakened. He had recovered all his memories. The last third of the Nine Wheels Immortal platform was covered in five-colored splendor. Chapter 546. The recovery of memories was a kind of perfection. For a cultivator with only fragmented memories, his soul must be in pain. However, for Sumo, the perfection of memories was also a kind of pain. That was because he had relived all the happiness and pain he had experienced before. This kind of reliving was a kind of tearing. On the black round table of the tomb, Sumo finally opened his eyes slowly. His eyes were a little different again. Once he wanted to restore the Star River, it was completely out of instinct. And now, Sumo remembered everything in the Star River era. Hidden Heartless. That invisible and formless existence had destroyed everything he had. Wu Er, Xiao Huang, Star River. Sumo murmured. All the happiness in the past was buried. This made Sumo's originally firm belief in restoring the Star River even more firm. Songhai, I am not you. Sumo sighed, then said to himself, I'm still alive, so let's do it all over again. I, Netherworld, am not afraid of life and death. Sumo let out a long breath, then gradually calmed his mood. At this time, Sumo did not know how long he had stayed in the tomb, because when he recovered his memories, he had no concept of time at all. With one hand grasping the void, a paper crane appeared in his palm. Then, Sumo gently blew. His thoughts had been imprinted on the paper crane. Raising his head, the paper crane directly rushed into the Ghost Gate tunnel. Sumo wanted to report to Yuwuji and the others that he was safe. Outside the tomb, it had been a full 15 days and nights. On the faces of Xianming and the 3 South cultivators, there was a trace of anxiety. In theory, if Sumo was safe in the tomb, he should have sent a message out. Yuwuji was still calm, but there was a trace of worry in his heart. After all, this was a hidden world. Anything could happen. At this moment, a paper crane flew out of the Ghost Gate and stopped in front of Yuwuji. Yuwuji reached out and caught Jiha, who, looking at the paper crane again, it instantly dissipated and turned into a line of words. Seeing an old friend, all is well. The previous dream has been resolved. Do not worry about it. Concentrate on seclusion. Do not wait for long. Sumo's message was concise and comprehensive. Thus, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. It was good that Sumo was fine. The others didn't understand the phrase, the dream is over, but Yuwuji couldn't help but be shocked. What was the power in the tomb that allowed Sumo to recover her memories of the Star Age? Me, an old friend? Who could it be? Who was the old friend related to the 9 coffins? Was it AMU or another venerable? Xianmeng and the other cultivators thought that Sumo was referring to Yuwuji, but Yuwuji knew that it was definitely not him. However, she didn't have an answer in her heart. Everything could only be discussed after Sumo came out of seclusion. The tomb of the Star Soul Valley had actually become the place where Sumo went into seclusion. The Xianming cultivators naturally didn't have any objections, and the Sanin cultivators could only smile bitterly. This was the treatment of a strong cultivator. At this time, if anyone could enter the tomb, they could cultivate with Sumo. However, no one could. Anyone in the 9 Dao gates could make them die without a burial place. The news of Sumo had already spread. Chu Fei and the others cupped their fists towards Yuwuji. Alliance Master Yu, since Senior Su is fine, we won't disturb you anymore. Originally, we wanted to express our gratitude to Senior Su again, but now we ask Alliance Master Yu to convey our gratitude. Chu Fei said, Fellow cultivator Chu is too polite. Yuwuji smiled and said, Please send my regards to the patriarch of the Sanan clan. I will. Chu Fei nodded and did not say anything else. At this time, Guyu looked at Yuwuji and said, Alliance Master Yu, if Senior Su comes out of seclusion, please send me a message. I will visit Xianming again. Oh, Yuwuji was slightly taken aback. There is something I would like to ask Senior Su in person. It concerns my teacher, so please help me, Alliance Master Yu. Guyu was very sincere and polite. Okay, Yuwuji nodded. After all, Guyu was Murong Haiching's student. Even if she did not find Sumo, Sumo would have found her. Chu Fei and the others cupped their fists and said goodbye. Yuwuji and the others did not need to wait there any longer. When a Breakworld cultivator went into seclusion, it would take more than 3 to 5 years. Therefore, Yuwuji made some arrangements and left some cultivators behind. Then, he and Long Wansheng took the rest of the Xianming cultivators back to the ancient Shu God Mountain. Star Soul Valley returned to its peaceful state. Only the tomb looked lonely. Everyone left, but Guan Xiong, who was in the sky, was sleeping. He had been waiting for 15 days and nights in Beihan City, but Sumo had yet to come out. He did not see Sumo send the paper crane. At this moment, he suddenly raised his head and looked down. Only then did he realize that the cultivators outside the tomb had all disappeared. Huh? Guan Xiong was confused. Little fatty, Sumo is fine. She is in seclusion in the tomb. Everyone else, go back. Not far away, Miaolong was wearing a white dress. Miaolong was not interested in Guanxiong. She had been waiting there every day. However, everything that was happening on the ancient Shu continent was as clear as day to her. Seeing an old friend and the dream was over, Miaolong was interested in those words. Sumo, who had been to Beihan City before, did not show any signs of awakening. However, it seemed that Sumo already knew his true identity. So, who was the old friend? The tomb was related to the three realms of galaxy. The cultivators of the three realms could tell that at a glance. Little fatty, if Sumo comes out, I will let you go to the three realms. I will let you go to the lower world and see him. But you need to practice before that. There will be people watching what happens in Star Soul Valley. You don't need to wait for him every day. Miaolong looked at Guanxiong with a cold face. You really care about Sumo's business. When I came out of seclusion, why weren't you the first person I saw? Huh? Guanxiong scratched his head. That day, I went back to the cave and took a nap. Miss, didn't I explain it to you? Can't you take a nap outside my cave? Miaolong snorted. You don't care when I come out of seclusion. You even hope that I won't come out of seclusion so that you can live freely. How could that be? Miss, when you were in seclusion, I missed you day and night. For more than 200 years, I couldn't eat well, sleep well, and even had no heart to cultivate. Come on, you can't eat well, sleep well. How could you gain 50 pounds? You're just lazy. Miaolong sighed. Sumo's cultivation speed is godly. She will soon catch up with me. Guanxiong, you're at the peak of undead realm. You're not even a burial god. How can you call her brother in the future? Huh? Guanxiong was rendered speechless by Miaolong. Then, Miaolong turned around and left. Guanxiong looked at Miaolong's back in a daze. In 300 years, he had reached the peak of undead realm from the early stage of undead realm. It could be said to be a small miracle. But was it still not enough? The key is that Sumo is too fast. Who can compare with him? Guanxiong looked at Star Soul Valley below the clouds and couldn't help but sigh. At this time, Sumo was already in the tomb, preparing for the second leap. Chapter 547. Inside the tomb, Sumo sat cross-legged on the black round platform and closed his eyes again. The round platform that Songhai had left him wasn't just for restoring his memories. The black round platform was the power of the three realms gathered by Songhai. In fact, those were the fragments of the three realms. Each fragment could form a world of its own. Such a round platform was indeed a treasure. Sumo sat there, and he could feel the surge of power. That power was as vast as the sea. Perhaps, for the former netherworld, it was nothing. However, for the current Sumo, it was still a power that could not be completely integrated at once. The early stage of the breaking realm was only equivalent to the 7th or 8th tier of the Shin Immortal in the three realms. And the power left by Songhai contained the power of many venerables. The current Sumo was many levels lower than it. He could only draw and absorb it bit by bit. Be careful. Fortunately, those powers would never hurt Sumo. Moreover, Sumo had the perfect soul of a venerable. Otherwise, even a trace would be unbearable for Sumo. On the black round platform, the brilliance was faint. Sumo closed his eyes and meditated. At that moment, he felt that he was in the vast universe. Below him was the heart of vast universe, the source of power. And for the first time, he felt like a lotus flower. That lotus budding, but gently swaying in the sea. Sumo enjoyed that feeling very much. He wandered in many worlds. In the tomb, he did not know how long it had been. The little white pig had been lying next to the round platform. However, when it saw that its master was completely meditating, it could not help but feel a little bored. Gradually, its two eyelids fought, and it fell asleep. One man and one pig, just like when they were in the Soul Depository Cave. On the ancient Shu continent, it was peaceful and peaceful. After Sumo went into seclusion, Yu Wuji still controlled Xianming. There were still 70 years left on her rotation. Yu Wuji wanted to make Xianming stronger. More than 300 years had passed since the 1,000-year promise of the Nine Nether City. Yu Wuji understood that in order to defeat Tian Fu, the entire Pure Land had to unite. The strength of Nether City was not enough. The ancient Shu would be an important force, and time waited for no man. After her, the next alliance master on duty was Long Wanshin. As long as Sumo's realm increased again, everything was going according to Yu Wuji's plan. She will definitely help Sumo control the entire ancient Shu. Unfortunately, she did not have any news about the Azure Demon. The Azure Demon was nowhere to be seen in the ancient Shu continent. She hoped that Sumo might have some news about the Azure Demon when she came out of her closed-door cultivation. Perhaps, when she reached the late stage of Break World, she could leave the Pure Land to search. The Azure Demon was Yu Wuji's everything and ultimate desire. Chaotic God's continent, Su City. That day, when Sumo was patrolling the city, the cultivators of the two cities were already shouting the slogan, "Su City is invincible. Unify the chaotic gods." After that, more and more regions submitted to the chaotic gods' southern region. As for those that did not voluntarily submit, Longbow and a few elders went to visit them. The result was obvious. Who dared not submit to the chaotic gods' southern region? Cultivators of the divine burial realm were the most powerful beings in the chaotic gods' continent. Moreover, there was no divine burial realm in the southern region, and Longbow's was no ordinary divine burial realm. Longbow's divine burial realm was invincible among those of the same realm. Therefore, in less than 3 years, the entire chaotic gods' southern region submitted to Su City. Longbow carried out a drastic change in the entire southern region. Su City was still there. However, the entire chaotic gods' southern region was named the Chaotic Gods Sect by Longbow. The sect master was naturally Sumo. Other than the great elder of dragon saliva, there were also 13 guardian elders. The entire chaotic gods sect was made into a tightly organized and powerful sect. As soon as the chaotic gods sect appeared, the entire chaotic gods middle region and the northern region were in a state of panic. There had never been such a large sect above the chaotic gods continent. Using the name of the chaotic gods sect was self-evident. Sumo has been in the ancient Shu continent for 30 years. On this day and night, Dragon Saliva stood at the entrance to the chaotic gods' central region, Mount Mulberry. Mount Eternal Sunset was part of the Eternal Sunset mountain range. Normally, it was the dividing line between the southern region of the chaotic gods and the southern region. Jean Mantang and Lu Ru stood behind Dragon Saliva. Elder Long, everything is ready. The chaotic god sect can send troops to the central region at any time. Jean Mantang said respectfully, "We are only waiting for your immortal token." Ambergris nodded. However, he did not give the order right away. Instead, he scanned the entire chaotic gods central area. After all, there were still a few burial gods in the chaotic gods central region. It was not a small force. If he were to attack them one by one, he would definitely be able to obtain the dragon saliva. What Ambergris was worried about was them joining forces. Most importantly, there was a special existence in the chaotic gods' central region, the Undying Kingdom. In fact, the Undying Kingdom no longer has any true cultivators. The Undying Nation only had puppets. However, the Undead Kingdom was under the influence of the Corpseless sect. The strength of the Chaos Gods sect was only relative. It could not go against the Corpseless sect. For more than 20 years, the Chaotic God sect had been preparing to conquer the Chaotic Gods central region. They must win this war. Dragon's pupils contracted as he made up his mind. Relay my order. The Chaotic God sect will cross the Mount Mulberry. Those who do not submit will be killed without mercy. But Dragon Saliva paused for a moment. Go around the Undying Kingdom. Yes. Jean Mantang responded without hesitation. He had gotten used to following Dragon's orders over the years. Because other than Sumo, Dragon Saliva was the direct leader of Su City and the entire Chaotic God sect. Jean Mantang did not know that Sumo and Dragon's reincarnators were reincarnators of the 3 realms. However, Dragon Saliva had already conquered everyone in Su City with his abilities and strategies. an existence who was once half-step to the martial venerable realm and even controlled the demon continent, was now in charge of a city and a sect. Jean Manang took out his signal cannon and tossed it into the air. Boom! Pa! The three-colored radiance exploded in the sky above the Twilight Mountain range. Kill! Whoosh! As the signal cannon exploded, the prepared cultivators of the Chaotic God sect, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, followed the predetermined route and flew across the Mount Mulberry. They were as dark as stormy clouds. An army of cultivators was extremely powerful. There were many sects in the Chaotic God's central region. However, there were almost no sects like the Undying Kingdom. The Undying Kingdom used to be the core of the Chaotic God's central region. However, the Undying Kingdom had long been destroyed. Now, those living in the Undying Kingdom were walking corpses. There was almost no power in the Chaotic God's central region that could stop the Chaotic God sect. The Chaotic God's central region's great cultivators had already grasped the situation. One-on-one, none of them were Dragon Saliva's opponent. However, if they worked together, they still had a chance. However, the Chaotic God continent did not have such traditions. Plus, no one wanted to be the first to stand out. Deep in a mountain, an early-stage burying god cultivator sighed, "Ancient mountain sect, surrender. From now on, we belong to the Chaotic God sect." He wasn't afraid of death, but for the sake of the sect. In a cave, a white-haired male burying god cultivator looked at his disciples kneeling before him and sighed. "As long as the Chaotic God sect doesn't kill my disciples, the Heavenly Cloud Palace will surrender." The Heavenly Cloud Palace used to be a sect in the Undying Kingdom. However, the kingdom had fallen and its home was gone. The Heavenly Cloud Palace was no longer as mighty as it was in the past. All of this was a microcosm of the Chaotic God's central region. Countless people surrendered. The Chaotic God sect didn't need to fight, and many sects of the central region submitted. However, a group of people was stopped at a place called Blood Bamboo Mountain, because there was a special family there and a special person there. Chapter 548. The Blood Bamboo Mountain was named after the red bamboos that covered the mountain. It was located in the northeastern part of the Chaotic God's central region, and it had a radius of 300 miles. Originally, it was an ownerless land. However, more than 300 years ago, the Undying Kingdom was destroyed, and their clan migrated here. For 3 whole years, the Chaos God sect was unstoppable. More than half of the Chaos God Central region had surrendered. After bypassing the Undying Kingdom, the Chaotic God sect's cultivator army arrived at the Blood Bamboo Mountain. This group was led by the original Elder Wang Du, Hualing Jun. Hualing Jun was at the middle stage of the Divine Tribulation Realm. However, the 30,000 Chaos God elites under his command were brimming with fighting spirit. Before this, they had not encountered much resistance. Basically, once the army arrived, the entire sect would surrender. However, they stopped 50 kilometers away from Blood Bamboo Mountain. Outside Blood Bamboo Mountain, there was an extremely powerful Undying Array. Hualing Jun himself was an array master. He was extremely sensitive to formations. He knew that this was the strongest array they had encountered since entering the Chaotic God's central area. Blood Bamboo Mountain? At this moment, Hualing Jun looked into the distance with narrowed eyes. The red mountain was like fire, and the bloody mist was hazy. The 300-li radius of the Blood Bamboo Mountain was filled with endless killing intent. "Elder Hua, this is not a good place to attack." A cultivator who looks like a strategist behind Hualing Jun said, "This is the mountain gate of the Undying Kingdom's Dongfang clan, the Dongfang family." Hualing Jun nodded. Of course, he had already heard about the past events of the Undying Kingdom. In the Battle of the Undying Kingdom, Dongfang clan's god-burying ancestor Dongfang Mo fell. However, the Dongfang family had an even more powerful Dongfang Jiu'er. Even without Dongfang Jiu'er, the Dongfang clan still had several immortal cultivators. In Hualing Jun's cultivator army, although there was no lack of undead realm, if they were to forcefully attack, they would definitely suffer great losses. Surround them, but not attack. Huo Lingjun frowned. The Chaos God sect pursued a form of oppression. Subduing the enemy without fighting was the best strategy. However, Huo Lingjun understood that the Dongfang clan would not surrender easily like the Heavenly Cloud Palace. Roger, a cultivator behind Huo Lingjun replied. In an instant, the 30,000 cultivators dispersed. Blood Bamboo Mountain was surrounded so tightly that not even a drop of water could pass through. Just then, a woman's voice came from within Blood Bamboo Mountain. Chaotic God Sect, bring your Grand Elder here. The first elder was none other than the Dragon Saliva. Huo Lingjun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The other party's tone was not small. Of course, the Dongfang clan had the capital to back it up. Just as Huo Lingjun was hesitating, a ripple appeared in the void. When he looked again, Dragon Saliva, dressed in a black robe and with shoulder-length red hair, had already appeared in the void. The Dragon Saliva is here. Who wishes to see you? The Dragon Saliva's voice rumbled like thunder. Greetings, Grand Elder Chaos God. The Chaos God cultivators surrounding Blood Bamboo Mountain cheered. For a time, the shouts shook the valley, and the momentum was astonishing. On the peak of Blood Bamboo Mountain, a black-clothed female cultivator appeared. She was extremely beautiful and had an extraordinary temperament. However, his black robe made him look extremely cold. Dongfang Jiu'er, the most special existence of the Eastern Clan. The Grand Elder of the Chaotic God Sect. Dongfang Jiu'er looked at the Dragon Saliva and frowned. Because this was the first time she saw the Dragon Saliva after reincarnation. Other than the red hair, Dragon Saliva's appearance had changed a lot. That's right. Dragon Saliva looked at Dongfang Jiu'er with an inexplicable smile. This was because Dongfang Jiu'er had chosen the appearance of the black-veiled woman. Dongfang Huan. Dragon Saliva could tell a glance. Dragon Saliva sighed in his heart. He knew the black-veiled woman's past clearly. To be more precise, she was a pitiful woman. Dongfang Huan, or I can call you Netherworld Woman, Dragon Saliva said. Oh, Dongfang Jiu'er was slightly startled. You know me? Hee. Dragon Saliva laughed. I am Dragon Saliva. Dragon Saliva? Dongfang Jiu'er was shocked. Azura Dragon Saliva? That's right. Azura Dragon Saliva. Miss Dongfang, it's been a long time. Dragon Saliva cupped his hands at Dongfang Jiu'er. The surrounding cultivators could not understand their conversation, because no one knew their true past. Oh, Dongfang Jiu'er smiled helplessly. The Grand Elder of the Chaotic God Sect is you? The Sect Master is Sumo. Why did you guys reunite in the Pure Land? To unify the Chaotic God Sect, Dragon Saliva said slowly. And then? Dongfang Jiu'er looked at Dragon Saliva. The corners of her mouth curled up into a cold smile. And then, to unify the Pure Land. Dragon Saliva's expression was calm, and his tone was calm. Because to him, it was only a matter of time. And then, rush out of the Pure Land and unify the Pure Land? Dongfang Jiu'er looked at Dragon Saliva mockingly. Is that right? Yes. Dragon Saliva said. Hee. Dongfang Jiu'er sneered. Dragon Saliva, aren't you tired? Back then, you ran around for the Nether supremacy and made great contributions. But so what? There is no reincarnation in the three realms, and there is no eternal life. The Milky Way is destroyed. What is the meaning of everything you've done? Life and death are all for naught. Now, do you want to do it all over again? Dongfang Jiu'er's tone was full of vicissitudes. The look in her eyes was full of blankness and despair. Life and death are all for naught. In fact, in a sense, Dongfang Jiu'er was not wrong. Many people worked hard for many things throughout their lives, but in the end, it was all for naught. Therefore, they denied the meaning of life. Dragon Saliva shook her head when she heard Dongfang Jiu'er's words. Miss Dongfang, there is a reason for reincarnation. Once, I was at the Nether Supremacy's beck and call, so naturally I have my own desires. Now, I am still assisting him, but the meaning is completely different. AMU once broke my reincarnation. However, I am fortunate to be reborn, so my existence should be more valuable. Dragon Saliva looked at Dongfang Jiu'er and smiled kindly. Miss Dongfang, let the past be with life and death. However, I will not forget that I am from the three realms. From the three realms? Dongfang Jiu'er shook her head and asked. Dragon Saliva, when I was in the three realms, apart from my clansmen, who treated me as a human? You? Xiao Luo? Nether supremacy? AMU? I am either a chess piece or ignored. When am I human? He. Dongfang Jiu'er sneered. At the same time, her aura was a little unstable. Wisps of black gas dissipated outwards. At this moment, in the eyes of ordinary cultivators, Dongfang Jiu'er was just an undying cultivator. However, Dragon Saliva could tell that Dongfang Jiu'er contained great power. That was at least the power of the burying god stage, or even higher. However, that power was not stable. It would change according to Dongfang Jiu'er's emotions. Miss Dongfang, Dragon Saliva's tone sank slightly. Why can't we let go of the past? Reincarnation and rebirth. We should fight for the Three Realms Galaxy. Dongfang Jiu'er said coldly. Fight for the Three Realms Galaxy? That is your Tao, Dragon Saliva, or that is Xiao Luo's Tao. What does it have to do with me? It doesn't matter if it's the Milky Way or Yi Song. I, Dongfang Jiu'er, will only fight for my clansmen in this life. I do not care about the galaxy, nor do I care about Izong's life or death. However, if you want to enter Blood Bamboo Mountain, you must step over my dead body. I, Dongfang Jiu'er, would rather have my clan destroyed than submit to the sect founded by Xiao Luo. Chapter 549. Some people were forever obsessed with love and hate. Perhaps they were all sentimental people. Dongfang Huan was one of them. Dongfang Huan had gone through countless trials and tribulations. However, she had never given up on her love for AMU, nor had she forgotten her hatred for Xiao Luo. It was just that her love and hate had gone to an extreme. For the sake of love, she could choose to kill AMU. For the sake of hatred, she could become the Dark Lord's dog. In fact, from Desolate Sea to Azura, from Xinghe to Izong, from Dongfang Huan to the Black Veiled Woman, from the Black Veiled Woman to Dongfang Jiu'er, she had never changed. She was still herself. It was this world that had changed. In the face of the destruction of the three realms, Sumo, Dragon Saliva, and the others had long since put aside all their personal grudges, love, and hatred. All they wanted was to fight for the Three Realms Galaxy. However, Dongfang Huan wouldn't. She might only belong to herself. No one understood her. She would never submit to a sect founded by Xiao Luo. This was her bottom line. Thus, Dragon Saliva stood in the void and looked at Dongfang Jiu'er calmly, not saying a word for a long time. In the face of a cultivator like Dongfang Jiu'er, his feelings were rather complicated. Right now, Dragon Saliva did not want to kill a single cultivator from the Three Realms. In the past, he had killed enough. Miss Dongfang, you can't stop me. Dragon Saliva said slowly. Dongfang Jiu'er smiled and then looked at Dragon Saliva. Dragon Saliva, you're someone who was once called the Sacred Venerate. It's normal that I can't stop you. I'll just die. But so what if I die? I'm not afraid of death at all. Dongfang Jiu'er's last sentence was filled with endless loneliness. Yes, she was not afraid of death at all. Dongfang Jiu'er's aura rose again. At the center of her brows, 6 rays of light appeared indistinctly. But no one could stop us. Dragon Saliva raised his eyebrows slightly, his red hair fluttering slightly. This was his final warning to Dongfang Jiu'er. Dongfang Jiu'er laughed. Her laugh was very natural and moving. However, she didn't say anything. Clansmen, today I will fight for you. I can die for you, because perhaps only you are worthy of my sacrifice. That was what Dongfang Jiu'er was thinking. However, those words revealed too much bitterness. Was that really her heart? Dongfang Jiu'er then made a grabbing motion in the air. Chi, 6 divine swords already in hand. A determined look flashed across her eyes. Without waiting for the dragon's saliva to attack, her figure moved. The sword went straight for the dragon's saliva. The power of the burying gods. Dragon's saliva sighed inwardly. He didn't want to fight, but he could only accept the challenge. Who? The dragon's saliva black robe spread out, and the power of the sword swept past him. There seemed to be a whirlwind in the void. This was a god-burying, god-level battle. All the cultivators of the chaotic gods' sect retreated. No one in the Dongfang family could help. It was a battle that only belonged to the two of them. As soon as the two of them exchanged blows, their strength soared to the 9 heavens. Two black shadows were fighting each other with their respective spells. The dragon's saliva was only at the middle stage of the god-burying realm. However, he was once a half-venerated being. The dragon saliva's control over power and the use of magical techniques had reached a pinnacle. Thus, he could kill those who were stronger than him. This was also the biggest reason why Dragon Saliva dared to lead the Chaotic Gods sect to attack the Chaotic Gods Central region. Sumo was the ultimate method. However, to unify the Chaotic Gods, he could not wait for Sumo. As long as it was not a Breakworld cultivator, Dragon Saliva could kill them, and Dongfang Jiu'er was one of them. After all, Dongfang Jiu'er was not a true burying god. She was just using her identity as an awakened Three Realms reincarnator to explode with the same power. They were both Three Realms reincarnator, but Dongfang Jiu'er was not an eternal realm. Her reincarnation was a special case, and now she was at a disadvantage. However, Dragon Saliva did not kill Dongfang Jiu'er. Instead, he kept using spells to restrain her. Dragon Saliva's foundation was not something Dongfang Jiu'er could compare with. For a moment, the void was filled with colorful lights that dazzled the eyes. At this time, only the undying cultivators could roughly see the battle between them. Huoling Jun stood outside Blood Bamboo Mountain and let out a long sigh. He was becoming more and more incompetent as the Great Elder. In the cultivator army he led, there were undying cultivators. His level was a bit low. In the future, it would be difficult to convince the masses. It seemed that after the Central Region War, he would choose to go into seclusion. Inside Blood Bamboo Mountain, the undying cultivators of the Dongfang family were also looking up. Their faces were very serious. Back then, during the Battle of the Undying Kingdom, they were forced to migrate here. After more than 300 years, everything had just stabilized. The Chaos God sect had become a force that could sweep away the Chaos God. In fact, for the ordinary Dongfang family cultivators, they did not have much resistance to joining the Chaos God sect. After all, the Chaos God sect was now a big tree. Moreover, they did not have the obsession in Dongfang Jiu'er's heart. For an elite to unite the Chaos God was not necessarily a bad thing for them. After all, the Chaos God sect was not the corpseless sect. If they joined the Chaos God sect, they would not have to be puppets, and they would not lack resources. They would just have to listen to the Chaos God sect's unified command. Compared to preserving one's life, everyone knew which was more important. However, Dongfang Jiu'er could be said to be the Dongfang family's word. What was the will of the Dongfang family? She could be above anyone. Moreover, before Dongfang Jiu'er left the mountain, she had sealed the entire Blood Bamboo Mountain. Without Dongfang Jiu'er's permission, no cultivator of the Dongfang family could leave Blood Bamboo Mountain. Dongfang Fu, Dongfang Haoyue, and other important figures of the Dongfang family were currently watching the battle. Ninth sister, ninth princess. Not many cultivators of the Dongfang family knew of Dongfang Jiu'er's background. Those who knew sighed silently in their hearts. Those who did not frowned in confusion. Why did she do this? There was no need to fight. The Dongfang family could be completely safe. After all, they were a force that could not be underestimated on the Chaos God continent. However, Dongfang Jiu'er chose to fight to the death. That battle was the Chaos God sect's first top-notch battle to unite the Chaos God continent. Because the dragon saliva had never been used before, a wise man submits to the circumstances. The Chaos God sect's unification of the Chaos God continent was inevitable. Therefore, the families and sects with divinity burial cultivators all chose to surrender to maximize their own benefits. However, many people were watching the battle, including the cultivators who had already surrendered to the Chaos God sect. The dragon Saliva's name had already spread throughout the Chaos God continent. Today was the day to test his worth. Dragon Saliva was well aware of this. He wanted to establish his dominance in this battle. However, he did not want to kill Dongfang Jiu'er. Therefore, he had been looking for a balance. Dongfang Jiu'er had no qualms. In fact, she only attacked without defending. She was fighting with her life on the line. Theoretically, that should not have happened to a cultivator with the power of divinity burial. Dragon Saliva frowned inwardly. Dongfang Jiu'er's eyes were cold, but endless sorrow was hidden deep within them. She doesn't want to live anymore. The thought flashed across Dragon Saliva's mind. At that moment, he felt like he had seen through Dongfang Jiu'er. Whoosh! Dragon Saliva waved his hand. A red bolt of lightning lit up the sky above Blood Bamboo Mountain. Dragon Saliva's slash. It was once a venerable grade divine weapon. All the cultivators watching the battle shuddered. With this divine weapon, Dragon Saliva could kill all the divinities of the Chaos God continent. The continent trembled as soon as the divine weapon appeared. Dongfang Jiu'er's lips curled up. An eerie smile appeared on her face. She seemed to have been waiting for this moment. Kill! Dongfang Jiu'er shouted. The sword of 6 paths slashed down from the sky. That slash was enough to flatten mountains and split oceans. At the same time, a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. Dragon Saliva's dragon Saliva slash met the sword of 6 paths. Dragon Saliva, if you see him one day, please tell him that I really like him. It was a secret transmission from Dongfang Jiu'er. I hope that you will reappear in the 3 Realms galaxy. My love is there. Dragon Saliva was slightly dazed. Crack! The sword of 6 paths instantly shattered upon coming into contact with the dragon Saliva slash. Uft! The dragon Saliva slash shattered the void. Dongfang Jiu'er's blood splattered across the sky. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.